Egg. Egg. Egg.
Don't fall in love with the man on stage. I'll be on in a minute. I'm sharpening my blade. Don't fall for his flattering tune. He'll promise you the world until you drink that perfume.
Egg.
It's a highway, highway to the door. And a neon Medusa's got your heart. Sweet canyon lullabies. Don't look straight into its heart.
Egg.
It's a highway, highway to the door.
Egg.
There's only
Egg.
two ways to make it in this town. One is to be brilliant, the other is to drown. Don't take both drugs all in one go. You can't reach the heavens passed out on the floor. It's a highway, highway to the door. And a neon Medusa's got your heart. Sweet canyon lullabies. Don't look straight into its eyes. It's a highway, highway to the door.
Egg.
If your mama could see you now, if your mama could see you now,
Egg.
topless and upside down, the room spinning around. If your mama could see you now, with the party lights coming out, are you
Egg.
lost or are you found? And there are too many mirrors in this Don't fall in love with the man on stage. I'll be on in a minute, then I'll sweep you away. Don't fall for the monsters in this maze.
Egg.
I could love you forever if you'd meet my gaze.
It just went from the normal version of the song to the instrumental version. Okay, I'm gonna skip it.
Egg. Shit, I forgot to take off my makeup. And now my
And now the VTuber thing doesn't work good. I'll be, I'll just be another minute.
Egg. Egg.
Okay. I am back. Hello. Now let me set up new VTuber stuff. I knew I was forgetting something. Da-da-da-da-da. Mhm.
Wow! I know, where am I?
Where are you, Jody? Also, wow, I'm here now. Hello. Sorry, I was already unmuted, so when I went through the routine of going to this screen and revealing myself, I muted myself instead of unmuting. You know.
Yes, I know, where am I, Zoe?
Wait a minute. Where are you?
Explain yourself.
There you are. But you're
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
little and all the way over there because you were your creature last time.
Was it? Oh no, was I my Oh yeah, I was my creature because we
Yeah,
did
you
the Lethal Company.
Car battery!
Ow! Ow!
I can't believe you've done this to my good friend Zoe.
Ow!
I can't believe this violence has been committed against my friend.
Extremely fucking normal and everyday behavior. Anyway, hello
You like hurting
everyone.
people, don't you, Chad?
How's everyone doing? Welcome. Is chat working?
Hey.
Not-
Yep.
Are you seeing people talk? I don't see people talking.
I just
Are
saw
they
a
just not
two
talking?
red redeem Amy Rose.
I did
Maybe
see
people
that.
just aren't talking.
Maybe people just aren't talking.
There's hell.
Content. Hi, Al. Hi. Content to
Hi.
just sit. Yeah, of course you can talk. People can talk.
You're loud.
You're allowed.
For now.
Ow. Anyway, I just wanted to make sure because, you know, technical issues are fucking. Earlier today,
That's a flashback. That's what happened earlier today.
It's true. And then that happened while I was getting groceries, and I came back from groceries, turned the computer on, and the second it turns on, the moment it's a blue screen, just right away.
Fucked up.
What the hell? You know? Talking has been banned in 83 countries because some people don't know how to act.
Honestly, though,
You weren't allowed to talk on your stream either. Remember that?
it's true. I do remember that. I do remember that awful time that you put me through, Zoe.
I wasn't the only one. I didn't even start
It's true.
it.
You didn't. You were part of it, though.
I had a
You
big part in
joined
it.
the mob as soon
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
it formed.
And then everybody
You
else
so-
stopped and I kept going.
Yeah, you saw a mob and you were like, "Ooh, a mob to join."
Ooh, this looks like fun. Let's go. You know, it was good. We just kept throwing stuff on at Jodie. It was very good. While she was trying to tell us about her new model that she's debuting this Saturday.
This Saturday, 1 p.m. GMT. Go and check it
I
out.
remember the time good. Yes.
Yeah.
You should definitely go look at that. It'll be really cool and good because it's a very nice model.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah.
Zoe's seen it. Zoe's one of 2 people who've seen it apart from me and the model maker.
Oh damn! I'm the only other person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fuck. Shit.
I value your opinion greatly.
Aw. Thanks. Na 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 da-dum. Ba-dum. Ba-dum.
You fling 3,279 objects at me by going down into the redeems and clicking the car battery button.
No. That is not what that does.
If you keep doing that, eventually,
don't listen to her.
Hit me.
No. No, she didn't say that. Did not.
You know, just by the laws of deviation, eventually one of them will hit me.
Shh. That's not true. They're not gonna. And it's not gonna be 3,279 items. Don't do it.
That's how many items it's gonna take for the random deviation to hit me. You gotta do 3,279 times.
Anyway, do I have any interesting shit to talk about right now? Well, no. I don't think I do, really. Other than I had that blue screen. That was. Did I even talk about that? Did I mention that? Yeah. So the moment my computer started up, it was just blue screen, and I didn't even get a pic of like the code or anything, because I walked away while it was starting up, you know. So I don't even know what it was. But that's the second blue screen I've had since getting my PC back. So I'm a little bit worried. But on a brighter note, I did clean up my Firefox tabs finally, going from 332 to currently 50. It's still 50. It was lower and now it's gone back up to 50.
I don't know how you do it, girl.
Well, 3 of them right now are my going live posts, which I keep open because I bump those after the break, you know. So
I mean,
we can say that it's actually 47.
Sure,
yes.
Sure, but that makes sense. When I stream, I have 3 tabs open, but those are also my only 3 tabs I have open. I don't then have 49 more.
How do you do that? I don't get it.
I mean, it's simple.
Like, keep...
I don't need anything else open while I'm streaming, so I don't have it open while I'm streaming.
Well, okay, but how do you not like just have a song that you are listening to and then you do other things, and then you know, but then the song ends at some point and you don't realize, really, you don't think about it, so you just keep it open and it's just open forever?
No, that doesn't happen to me.
Insane.
I listen to the song, and then when it runs out, either goes to the next song or I pause it, and then when I want to watch another YouTube video, I overwrite that one because I already have a YouTube tab open.
Yeah, but you forget, don't you?
Zoe, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Zoe, you have brain damage.
That's not related to this. Surely not. Chat, back me up on this. Come on.
I don't forget the songs I like.
What?
I don't forget the songs I like.
No.
I'm
not saying you forget the song. It's ow.
Yeah, when there's only 4, I can see that there is a YouTube tab open. So I don't forget that there's a YouTube tab open.
Okay, whatever. You're privileged.
Shut up.
You don't have brain damage.
Look, it's fine.
You just have tongue damage. I learned about that. You talked about that recently. That's weird.
Yeah, my tongue damage, yeah.
Yeah. It sucks. How did...
I know.
In a car accident it happened?
Yeah, I had to... I can tell this full story if you want.
Sure.
It was actually a cop. It was actually a cop that hit us.
Of course, it's
so
fucking what's
so
a cop.
basically, what happened is that my school used to be like right near the police station, and my mother had come to pick me up, and there was like a cop car behind us, so she decided to pull over and let it pass because that's what you're supposed to do because they go fast.
Sure.
And once it went past, she then pulled out again. And then as she was pulling out, a second cop car came careening around the corner without its sirens on and crashed directly into the door of my passenger door, which then shattered the window directly into my face and also into my mouth.
Oh fuck, dude.
Yes, so I have a bunch of scars all over my face. And also I'm missing a good part of my tongue.
You've never told me that. That's insane.
Yeah, we got some compensation for it, which I accidentally spent a lot of. Not enough. I only got like £2,000 for that. Like,
what? They should have gone to the police station for it.
That's so true. And also apparently they changed the law after that, after my particular accident, to make it so they couldn't travel in pairs like that anymore. Yeah.
Good job.
Or at least they changed the rule in the county I'm in. I'm not sure if it's actually the law, but in the county I think they changed it.
That's fucked up that that person was just driving without the siren on.
It really was. But also, these days my town doesn't even have a police station anymore, so
Nice.
the point is mute. Yeah,
That's
they
good.
cut police funding, so the entire town, because the crime rate in my town is so low, they just closed the police station, and now the police have to come from like way out of town in order to get here if there's any crimes.
Good. That's cops. Also, me mixtape, thank you very much for the subscription. Yuji Naka went to Pearson for not making this game gay, but it is gay. What do you?
Pearson.
Whoa! Wait, the little thing popped up. It's so small. Why is it so small?
Is that
Hell,
color?
thank you so much. I think that's a choker. Yeah, it's
Nice.
like a cyberpunk choker. Thank you.
Hell yeah.
I'm just gonna. I might have to eyeball this, but I'm gonna try to make that thing a little bit bigger.
Sorry, I know that. I realized after I said that there's a connotation difference between collar and choker.
There is, but I find myself sometimes using them interchangeably. It's it's whatever, I feel.
Yeah, fair enough.
And I mean, like, even if you call it a collar, that doesn't necessarily make it, you know, a sexual thing.
Yeah, I know. No, I know. It's just there's I feel like there's a certain connotation when you say collar,
A little bit, but
especially online, because no one here knows how to fucking
yeah,
behave
okay,
themselves.
especially online. That's true. But hell, thank you so much. I haven't even found the thing yet. I'm fucking looking for it again. There it is. I found it. Wow. Okay. Yeah, I gotta make that bigger for sure. Ow. Thank you. Let's see.
Oh, I thought of something funny earlier, actually.
I wish you could like test. Sorry, I wish you could test it because now I just don't know if it's big enough or not. We'll
Yeah,
see.
why Zoe something on throne?
If you want to. Don't.
No, you have to do it. It's important testing. We have to do it.
No, shh. It's
I do
okay.
not speak for Zoe Goldman Queen.
You don't. Chad, you don't have to do it. It's okay. Only if you want to. There's no obligation whatsoever. Do it because you want to and you can afford it. Don't do it because I'm like, gosh, I hope I did it right this time.
Don't do it because I said it.
Don't do it because
You
Jody
never
said
do
it.
anything I say.
Don't do it because Jody said it. Do it because I didn't say it.
But no, the thing I was thinking earlier is after like an Amy Rose flew past me. I was like, damn, I'm so glad I can dodge into the two-dimensional plane.
Yeah.
Whereas, like,
Oh, God,
I'm just
Throne
in
is
the
so bad.
background,
Yeah,
painted onto a wall.
You're like I exist within a 2.D environment right now, and you are just a background element. That sounds mean, actually.
How dare you?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to offend you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, what if I got a PNG that's like graffiti styled and it just looked like I was painted back here?
Oh, that does sound actually very cool. That'd be cool.
Much to think about.
Much to think about, indeed. Now, I think we can like play game now, I guess.
Eggs.
Oh my god. You're so right. Also, there was an Omega for you.
Oh, and a mega for me.
Yes.
Nice.
Egg.
I feel like I should really like get the Ridge Racer R4 soundtrack at some point because everybody says it's so good and I love this song so much.
Ridge Racer.
Ridge Racer! Anyway, there's your Omega.
Thank you. Hello, Omega.
Okay, so everybody, remember that if you spend but one little point, you can put an egg on screen, and together we can block the game. Oh, speaking of which, we're actually gonna try to do that a little bit less this time.
Oh yeah, you've got to stuff them down at the bottom.
Yeah, because it's a DS game. Also, in keeping with, well, yeah, no, I don't feel like it. I was like, am I gonna change the DS background to be more wintry colored, but I don't feel like it actually. So we're not gonna actually.
Fair enough. Don't want.
Don't want. It's time for the eggs. Well,
Yay.
everybody, it's time for the eggs, and the first egg of the day is from Green Clonk. Ba, 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 da, bum. And the second egg comes from my friend Jody, who is here.
That's me.
I'm gonna stop trying to sing now.
That's fine.
Vex Fidel. Wait, there was already the third egg. How did I? What? Well, okay,
one.
Vex Fidel and Kira Cat. I'm fucking up the order. Anyway.
You put one down when you were trying not to sing.
Is that what happened? Okay.
Yeah.
Dark Knight. Wait, hold on. Okay, hold on. This is Green Clonk. This is Jody. This is Vex Fidel. This is Kira Cat. And this one's Dark Knight. Okay. And then this one is Etram Toa. Kerbal 99. Esteemed Jester. Anarchist Pastry. Mike Loves a Rabbit. Rootsatera. AOL. So excited. Those are my friends. Yay. Akai Fuller. Viridescent Fae. Arterial Red. Whoa! Arterial Red.
Big egg.
Meme Mixtape. And Evil Viewer Satan Beast 666. Thank you.
What a name.
What a motherfucking name. Thank you for your service. Very good.
Evil viewer Satan Beast 666.
Evil Viewer Satan Beast 666. Now we can play the game.
Horrifying.
Thank you.
Yay! Yippee! Woohoo!
Yeah, yippee yahoo! I'm already stream sharing it to you, aren't I?
You are, yes.
Yeah,
Might be
look at me.
showing white at the moment.
White. Yeah, but soon it's gonna have something on it.
Licensed by Nintendo, that's even worse than white.
Oh no! And presented by Sega. God damn it! Just
How
fucking
could you, sorry?
Union Busters. God.
Can we go back to white?
Let's go back to white. It's a bit scary here. Let's
There's corporations here, let's leave, honey.
Really though. I feel like it's
this is
like
peaceful.
when we just got to know each other, it was like one of the first things we bonded over was just there's ants here, honey. Let's leave.
There's ants here, honey.
There's ants here.
See, this is so much better. It's like a field of pure snow.
It's not. Oh yeah, you're right. Oh, it's so wintry. Everybody, close your eyes, and we'll imagine that we're going to Urbanistic.
Uh-huh.
Is that Santa? I hear Santa.
It's Santa.
Oh my God,
Santa's
Santa.
coming.
Santa's
It's
coming.
Santa.
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 Yay. Woo-hoo.
Oh, yay! Oh, I hope I've been good this year. Santa, watch out! They're stopping
Up
you.
again.
The fucking airport security is trying to stop you.
Santa trying to get through airport security with 50 PS5s.
I can't believe Santa's a fucking scalper.
He hit the orb on a stick. He didn't have one of those flashing red lights on it, so he didn't see it coming.
Anyway.
Awful safety from the orb on the stick.
Yeah, honestly. I mean, it is some sort of like old structure, so they probably just didn't have good OSHA rules yet, you know?
Shaking my head.
Shaking my SMH my head.
SMH my head. As if they don't care about Christmas.
OSHA doesn't care about Christmas. So, this is Phantasy Star Zero. If you haven't been here for any of the previous streams or just don't know it, Phantasy Star Zero is the DS installment of the Phantasy Star Zero. No, the Phantasy Star franchise. Which started at some point and is still going, and it doesn't fucking matter. What matters is that this game is a standalone. You can just enjoy it, and it's an action JRPG, and I like the story a lot. It's endearing to me because this game was very important for cracking my egg. Which reminds me, I've forgotten to do something very important here.
What's that?
This, which you can see
So
on screen.
who is ellipses ellipses? Oh, it's trans now.
Just a moment. I'll show in a moment.
Okay.
There we go. Oh, right, you're blocking her. God, I forgot.
It's not again.
I'll just move her.
Just shift me.
No, I'm just gonna move her. I don't know why I
She's-
never move her. I always move you for some reason.
I know, right? It's you saying this PNG is more important than I am, Zoe.
Well, you didn't crack my egg.
But I'm
Sorry.
done. If
What?
I'd had the chance. I'm gonna go back in time and crack your egg.
And then you try and just can't find me, and it's really hard. And then the only way you can think of doing is becoming a developer on this game and designing this character.
Of course, it's the only way.
And
So
so
I
you
should travel to Japan and learn Japanese so I can design Phantasy Star characters.
you get all the time for it. You know, you got
It's
time
true, it's
travel.
true.
That's actually, you know, and that would then establish that the time travel in this universe that we live in, the real one, is one where it's like predetermined. Everything already happened. You cannot change the past. Time traveling
Yeah.
just causes you to make the present happen. That we already know. Which is
I can do that. I could design this thing. Well, just watch me. I'm gonna do it right now.
okay.
Oh, be right here. One sec. I gotta hop in my time machine. 1 sec. It makes a very particular noise. You'll hear it.
Okay. Oh, she's back.
Okay, I'm back.
Welcome
I
back.
designed the character. It still exists, thus proving I designed it.
Whoa, you're right. Thank you for cracking my egg.
No problem at all. So I'm glad to do it.
So, this character here specifically, which is also the character we're seeing on the screen right now, but you can edit them a little bit, was crack my egg because I played through the game once as an. Thank you very much, Cucumber Cake, for subscribing. Because when I played the game first, I played as a male robot, and then I played through it again as a girl robot because I was like, well, what's different if you're playing as a girl? I still wanted to play as a robot. I didn't play as any of the other races because I wanted to be a robot. It's also the game that made me go like, I want to be a robot. Being a robot's cool. But then I just kept playing the game as a girl because I liked it way more for unspecified reasons. It's probably nothing. It's okay. Don't worry. Don't worry, Zoe. You don't have to think about that for like a few more years. It's okay, you know?
You said yourself, don't worry about it, Zoe. Wait, who's Zoe?
Who's Zoe? Don't worry about it, Zoe. Okay.
Okay. That's a
Alright,
weird
I don't
thing
know.
to say to myself.
I don't know who Zoe is, but I don't know, it's got a nice ring to it, I guess.
Yeah.
That'd be a nice name if I was a girl. Anyway. And so we are playing it now because I like it a lot. It's very dear to me.
Battery!
And
And now she's dead. That's the entire life story of Zoe.
oh, my head! I died.
Very sad, very sad. I've never cried more in my life.
I'm okay. As for
Oh,
who
okay.
Ellipses Ellipses is, that's a different character that I made for testing purposes at some point. And it's funny if you name the name ... because then if characters address you, it looks like they're just thinking about what to say next.
They're just thinking, yeah. Gives you some breathing room.
Yeah, right?
0 playtime.
That's not
This
right.
bitch ain't able
Oh no,
to
wait, it
do
is
the
right because
tutorial.
I just didn't save. I think I just got into the tutorial, like the intro mission, and then fucked around in there and did some testing with the graphics and stuff to try and improve performance. Didn't work, and then just quit.
She's stuck in
Anyway.
a time loop.
Yeah, so true. Anyway, we're playing as Jewel, who is our wonderful lesbian robot girl. She is in a relationship with a character called Sarissa. Sarissa eats bark. Jewel does not eat bark, but Jewel is very gung-ho about always throwing herself into the action and helping people. That's them. That's their characters.
Yeah.
Let's go.
I can't wait to give every character I voice completely new voices because I don't remember the old ones.
It just keeps things fresh, you know?
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
The story so far is that we woke up, which is special because we're a cast, and casts are robots from long ago that at some point for some reason all went into stasis, and they have been awakening bit by bit recently, but they don't have their memories.
Yeah.
So we woke up, and when we woke up, Sarissa was there. She came out of some sort of pod or whatever. It seemed that the impact woke us up, and she was like, "Wow, do you want to make out?" And Jewel was like, "Yeah," and then they made out. That's definitely canon.
I don't
No.
remember that part, I'm gonna be honest.
No, don't worry. They didn't get together quite that quickly. I'm sure they had some talking and moments and whatever. And it was definitely not just us deciding like instantly.
Yeah. You see, casts can only be awoken by true love's first kiss.
So true. So we went to the OC is very good. I really like the soundtrack for this game. It's not the most amazing soundtrack. It's just I really like it. Nostalgia and also just the style of it is fun. But we went to a city, and when we were in the city, Sarissa went, "Wait, shit! We probably shouldn't have left. We probably should have like looked around for clues about your old life and who you were. Let's go back." And then we were looking for a teleporter to go back, and then someone was like, "Oh my god, you must be those hunters that are hired to go save someone who's going to die in the forest that you guys are from." And we were like, "Yep, that's
Yep,
definitely
that's
us. That's us, all right."
We're lying for some reason.
We're lying. Well, we're lying so we can use this teleporter, I guess.
I guess so.
And then we went there, and then we failed, and the guy died, and then we killed his pets also. That's definitely canonical. There was 8 gorillas who were devoted to stand guard at his corpse. We killed those.
Yeah, it's amazing how forgiving everyone was about that.
Yeah, because then we were found by Kai, who was another hunter, and Kai was like, "Damn, you guys are pretty good." And we were like, "Are you sure?" we failed at our mission, and he was like,
guy's
"Yep,
dead.
Yeah, this guy's dead. We might as well have killed him. You know, it's
Yeah.
our fault." And he was like, yeah, but you tried, and that's what counts. You're hired, and that doesn't seem smart.
And he was like,
but...
yep, but we need diversity hires, so you're hired.
Yes, that was very much it. We need diversity hires. Everybody in Cowboy City, that's where we are right now, Chad. This is Cowboy City. Everybody in fucking Cowboy City is a cowboy. There's not enough lesbians out here, not enough Yuri going on. The mayor wants to diversify the city because he feels...
Why wouldn't you, really?
Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you want some Yuri in your city? I would.
Exactly.
And so we were like, all right, onto the forest, onto the hunters. We're part of the hunters now. And the mayor was like, can you get us some weed? That was good. There was an octopus we beat up for a while, and then Sarissa's boss came in, and he was like, you shouldn't be hanging out with the enemy. And she was like, but I like the enemy, Kiss. And Kiss, that's her kissing Jill.
Did you just say kiss out loud? No.
She says, Jill says kiss out loud because that's how she kisses, I think. Yeah, that also, yeah, she's an idiot. And then her boss was like, fine, okay. I suppose it is important to understand your enemy. You can keep hanging out with them for a little bit. And we were like, yay! Then we found a decapitated head. And the head was like, hey, Jewel, I know you from an ancient recording. And so we said, that sounds neat. Can we see? And he was like, okay, can you go kill this fantasy dragon first? And that's when the game reminded us that, yes, this is in fact Phantasy Star. It isn't just a sci-fi game. There's just a fucking dragon here. It's just a dragon. We call it a dragon.
It's just a dragon, yes. And we
and then
killed it. We kicked its ass.
We killed its ass. It was pretty hard, but we did it. First try. And then we found a body for the guy whose name was Ogie, the head. And he was like, yay, this body has a Western accent. Yeehaw, I'm an old Tommy Prospector now, aren't I? Yeah. Or whatever. And everybody thought it was so fucking annoying. You want to say something?
No, it's fine. You can continue.
Okay, alright, sorry. And then we found the recording, and Jewel was on there fighting some shit that we don't really understand. Maybe robots? Who's to say? It was hard to make out. But it was very easy to make out between Jill and what?
I said fighting, kissing robots. It's hard to make out. We're not quite sure.
Yeah. Exactly. One robot was definitely making out and kissing with Sarissa. And then, speaking of Sarissa's boss came and he was like, okay, you have to stop hanging out with your stupid little human friends now. And she was like, no, but I like my human friends though, and I think the ideology that we've been brought up with is actually fucked. I don't think the mother would want is completely in the right. I think we should talk about this. And he was like, no. And then he summoned his funny drill machines and started trying to kill us with them. And we were like, no. And then he was like, okay, I'm gonna go now. And then Sarissa was like, I feel like I should explain some stuff to you. And then she was like, yeah, so we're from the moon and we've been sent down here on a quest to do religious genocide on the humans. So we have to go to the moon. She was like, okay,
3 words: religious race war.
Yeah, that's basically it.
Let me elaborate. And everyone was like, okay, yeah, please do. That's weird.
That's weird. And then the moon was like, Gundam attack, Gundam, Reign of Gundam. But then we had
Reign of Gundam.
We had a cutscene where everybody fought Gundams for a while, and it looked pretty cool, but we didn't get to do it.
We didn't get to fight it.
And then it was decided that we should go to Urbanistic, which is our only potential chance of getting to the moon, which is where the moon people are. Which is where Sarissa is from, and that's where Mother will be, and Mother is their religious leader, who nobody ever sees, but Mother decided at some point that humans destroyed the surface world, and so humans should be destroyed also, and elves, I mean, what are they called again?
Newmans,
thank you.
Because they're new humans?
They're new humans. They're space elves. They're Newmans. Should all go to the moon, and all of the robots should go to sleep and have their memories wiped. And that'll be really good for everyone. And if, at some point she decided, actually, we're just gonna kill all of the remaining humans also. So that's what we're doing.
Be honest. Gonna be honest, the surface world doesn't look that destroyed. It seems to be doing fine, actually.
It's been a while.
I guess so.
It seems to be suggested that this is really funny also. Hold on, I'll say this one. It's suggested, I think, that humans used to live underground or something.
No.
And they're like only now rediscovering things. I don't know. It's called the, or no, maybe not even that. No. I don't think that was it. Well, anyway, at some point the Great Blank happened, and that's when all of history was wiped, right? So all human society was destroyed, all robots were put to sleep, and all humans went to the moon, and any remaining humans don't have any memory prior to that moment. So, I guess, okay, the surface doesn't look destroyed in the way that Fallout looks destroyed, but civilization is destroyed, and is now building back up. That's what it is. That's why there's like ruins and stuff. A sloppy enough kiss probably counts as an electrical attack on a robot. Yeah. Well, it depends on the robot. Robots can be waterproof, of course, or just, you know, or like enough protection on their face.
Look, regardless how sloppy that kiss is, that robot's gonna short circuit.
That's true. The robot's gonna overheat. Genocide on all humans? Sign me up! Why was I saying that like Sonic? Genocide on all humans? Sign me up! That's awesome!
That sounds like something Sonic would say. I believe that.
I might.
Yeah.
As a joke. I don't think he would really say it. He would recognize that not all humans are necessarily evil and want to look for a better way. And then Garnet has to stand behind him and say, I think we're gonna kill all humans. I think we're gonna have to kill all humans, Sonic. Damn!
I gotta be honest, Sonic doesn't have that many positive human interactions.
I guess that's true. Who knows, maybe he does hate all humans. And also, hello, the trans thing. It seems that you are in the right place, based on your name.
The only trans thing.
The only trans thing. Everybody's a trans something. This is the only trans thing, I guess. But okay, look at Mr. Cowboy Man over here.
Hi, Mr. Cowboy Man.
Look at him. He's bigger now.
Yeah, I'm looking at him. He is, you're right.
Now he's smaller again.
Why does this...
Bigger. Smaller. Bigger. Smaller.
Did you know that? Did you notice that as you're running in circles?
I noticed. Yeah, I noticed it when I think I might have known at some point. Who knows? The thing that it is that right now he's a 3D model, and if I get far enough away enough from him, he just becomes a PNG, I think, or at least like a lower res model. Let's see. Because it's not moving at all either. I'm pretty sure it's a sprite now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that guy's name? The purple guy?
This old man?
Yeah.
Oh, yo.
Okay. As you were running past, I thought they kept saying ooh woo, and I was like, wait, what?
Ooh woo. Say, does it not pique your interest how our world looks today? I understand there were such things as maps of the world once upon a time. Imagine it, our world in its entirety, represented on a single sheet of paper. How would our world appear in such a map? Would it be contorted from pollution, or would it be unchanged? I long for the day when again we can gaze upon our whole world from high above. May it come soon. Well. Oh, well. They JPEG'd him. They JPEG'd my arm breath.
How could they JPEG him?
How could they do this to Weapon Shop?
That's his name, Weapon Shop. He's actually a robot designed to look like a cowboy. His name's Weapon Shop.
He's just an animatronic.
Yeah.
And in this time of the world, he's been given a new lease on life where he doesn't have to work in a themed gift shop.
Yeehaw! My name's a Weapon Shop. come buy a good old 6-shooter.
True to my name, I sell weapons. Cause it was very confusing when I tried to sell my own homemade dishes. I had beautiful plates and bowls.
1 second, sorry.
All right, bye. The problem with only killing the bad quote-unquote humans is that you'll leave any 2 humans sitting around unguarded. There's a certainty that it'll start spawning, and then there'll be more bad humans in no time. Gotta finish the job up front. Yeah, you know, like leave none alive. No, you know, gotta wipe out all trace of them. It makes sense. I get where Mother was coming from. I don't know my name. I haven't picked one yet. Oh, that's cute. That's nice. I hope you find one that you like. I think the funniest thing about that older looking robot is that it's probably his choice to look that old since he's a robot. Maybe, yeah. Or, you know, it was someone's choice. Someone decided to build an old robot. But he also he acts old. You know? Like, from that conversation you didn't get it that much, aside from my voice. But he actually, like, does, like, call my robot, like, a young one at one point. And it's like, yeah, I know my robot is like a teenager in appearance, but aren't we both just like thousands of years old, technically speaking? You know? It's funny to me. Anyway, it's time to make sure I have enough items with me. Yeah, I should heal up or stock up on healing items. Kitty. Yay! Oh wait, how do you, whoa, oops, sorry. Wait. Chat help. There we go. Yay! I remembered how to do emotes. Which isn't relevant at all in our playthrough aside from just being fun. But in the, hello! Welcome back.
Hello.
Everything good?
Yeah, fine. My mother came back. She's been away for a few days, so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But this game has a multiplayer component. Yeah, dance. This game has a multiplayer component, and that's what these emotes are for. So there's 8 emotes you can do. I think if I hold both shoulder buttons, yeah, then I can do more.
Yay, yippee!
Yay, yippee, oh, woo! Oh wait, some of these are hold ones, I think.
Hmm.
That one ends very abruptly, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I love the jump for joy though.
Yeah. This dance is so good. Look at her go, dude.
I will say, knowing you, I'm surprised this robot was one of the ones to crack your egg, because like I said, knowing you, I'd thought the face would be too human for you.
The face is quite human. I don't know. The mouth specifically, I like the eyes and stuff, but everything surrounding it is still very, very good. You know. And I mean, I gotta start somewhere. It really just started with Jenny, of course, but I don't get to play as Jenny, do I?
Not at that time, you didn't know, but now.
Now I can,
play as
yes.
her in a racing game, I think is a fighting game?
Yep, there's 2 fighting games where you can play her.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. I don't have the second one yet, though. Maybe at some point. I love it when a game just lets you break it down unprompted. No, 100%, dude, it's so good. I love games with emote systems so much. It's so fun, it's so good. Dark Souls also very, very good for that. Although you can't dance in Dark Souls unless you use mods. Now. Oh no, we have... Fuck, there's new side missions we have to do. Damn it.
I hate side missions.
But the story! Orb on a stick!
But Orb on a stick!
Orb on a stick,
It's very funny to keep saying that.
Yeah,
like
well,
you're describing this story about like space people going to genocide the human race, and you're like, we have to go to Orb on a stick. It's the only thing.
Our only chance is Orb on a stick. It all rests on Orb on a stick.
Orb on a stick is the only way.
We've given it all for Orb on a stick, chat. But we won't get to Orb on a stick just yet.
Okay, fine.
We have to do a small friend and get connected and Mayor's quest. and Waltz of Rage.
I need more weed.
I need more fucking weed, gang.
We just went through like a 4-day fight against genocide of robots. I need this weed. We're gonna fucking lose it.
We are going to do a small friend first. This quest concerns mags. Applicants must agree to total non-disclosure. Oh, not this again. Mayor's mission has full secrecy to be maintained. Mayor's quest after 2. Secrecy to be maintained. Now, why are they being so secretive about everything?
Why are they hiding from the people?
Seriously. Oops. Okay, 2. There we go. Full party. I like that Sarissa always comes along. Sarissa's always like...
Yeah.
I mean, part of it I think is because she's the healer of the party, so it's just good to have the healer in your party at all times. But also, it's because she and Jill are inseparable. You know?
Of course. They can't even imagine being apart.
No. Absolutely not.
No.
They would get so sad,
Do not separate them.
Do not
it would
separate.
make them sad.
Don't separate the lesbians. And also, hello, Melancholy Gazer, welcome.
Jewel, Sarissa, can you spare a moment?
Mayor? What are you doing here? Is something the matter?
No, there's no crisis. It's just that this job is somewhat special. Miss Lindo, you've brought the papers.
Do you want to voice the boo-boo robot? So did you also
Yeah,
get
I
someone
guess
in the
so.
scene?
Yeah, sure. Yes, they're right here, hunters. If you will, please. These are marriage papers for you. A non-disclosure? Oh no, it does. Seriously.
Seems a little soon, they're just kids. But sure.
Once again, sorry.
Jody's mother.
How you been? I've been through it. With the computer and everything, but I'm fine now.
She's been through it.
You back?
Yeah, I'm back, yeah.
Okay, welcome back. A non-disclosure agreement? Can you tell us what this is about?
We need to send you somewhere that is extraordinarily special. It's absolutely top secret and never to be spoken of. Of course, I know that you aren't the sort to betray secrets, but rules are rules.
Jills, what do you think?
It's a non-disclosure agreement. Can you tell us what this is about? No, that's what the non-disclosure agreement is for.
If you sign it, then I can tell you.
Well, I don't want to sign it if I don't know what it's for.
Sign it!
God, please just fucking sign it. Please.
Well, what happens if we refuse?
Yeah,
Do we just-
you get kicked out and you have to go back to the quest counter.
I assume, yeah. It's either that or it's just like,
Please.
you know, and then I just get the option again. It's
What
one
is
of
the
those.
punishment for like betraying the non-disclosure agreement? Do you get arrested? Do they send someone after you? Like
Do you explode? Did it plant a bomb in your neck? You know?
this doesn't seem like the type of world where like the police are gonna come get you. You know?
That's a good point. Yeah, did I send hunters after you? I guess. It's a good question. Huh.
They told about our trade secrets. Kill them.
Orbital strike. Maybe you're right. It does sound like a lot to take on. I don't want to be accountable if there's a leak or anything. Also, I just remembered that it was a sippy redeem and I didn't do it. So sorry.
No.
But I've done it now. But on the other hand, knowing that it's top secret makes me curious about it too.
Maybe
Jill,
would help
can
me
we
with my
do it
War
this-
Thunder gameplay.
Finally, my favorite tank will be accurate. Do you do anything but drive tanks in that game? Are they like...
Oh yeah, you can drive
Boats?
boats and planes. Yeah.
What about feet?
You can't walk, no. It's purely vehicle combat.
What about bikes?
There are no bikes and mounted machine guns. No, I'm sorry.
That's a shame. Oh well, bad game. Jill, can we do it this time? For me? Aww. See, they're so in love. Just this once, I promise. I want to know more about mags, too.
Who's Mags again?
Mags are those little machines that fly next to us.
Oh, okay. Very well. If I can get everyone's signatures, please.
I just The game just goes like, and now you do it.
And now you do it. You have no choice.
And now you do it anyway. But you do it for Sarissa.
You do it for Sarissa, and that makes it more special.
Yes.
Thank you.
I apologize for putting you through all the fuzz. Also, you'll have to excuse my rudeness, but I must remind you to please never speak of this quest. I'll leave you to it now.
What quest? What's the quest? We weren't told anything.
They can't tell you. They signed the non-disclosure agreement. You just have the quest.
The non-disclosure
Go
agreement
now.
is that you agreed not to disclose it. They agreed that they wouldn't disclose it.
If anyone asks if you're on a quest, you have to say no. It means it never gets done because like you try and leave and people are like, oh, are you doing anything right? How can you? And you're like, no, we're not on a quest. Okay, good. Can you come help me? Yes. And then you just keep getting distracted and pulled away by other things.
That's just what like fucking open world games are like.
Yeah.
You'd be like,
We
ooh,
have to
thing.
save the world after we go help this random dude. After we go
Also-
help this guy meet his wife.
And then he dies along the way, and then his 8 gorillas are there, and we kill them. Also,
Oh no!
not again.
Not again. This
Fuck.
keeps happening. It's another time loop. I knew it.
What if we find out this game is a time loop?
I mean, it seems to be. I mean, you played it when you were young, and you're playing it now. It's exactly the same, so it must be a time loop.
You're right. It's not exactly the same. The characters' faces are a little bit fucked up sometimes.
That's true. The time loop is deteriorating.
Oh, soon I'll be free.
Reality is breaking down.
Uh-oh. What would happen? What, like... Is it... I think I wrote like I read a post about that the other day that's like... That like the logistics of a time loop can be so fucking interesting because it's like... Is it everything? Is the entire world looping? Or is it an area inside the world that is looping? And then what does that mean for everything around it? Can you exit the time loop? If someone
Just
that
walk
starts
outside
their
of it.
life, if someone that starts in the time loop, right? Like when the time loop starts, it's midnight, time loop starts. Someone is in there, they're asleep, they wake up at some point, and then they leave the area. Do they just go back to the start of the time loop? Like do they go to the time loop area? Are they still being affected by it if they leave the area? What about if someone enters the time loop area and they stay there when it resets? Do they get caught up in the time loop now?
What
Or
if
will
it's
they
just
now be
generating infinite clones of anyone who's ever been in the time loop?
Oh, wait, so...
So, like, you wake up in your bed, you leave the time loop, but then you're still outside when while the time loop resets, so another you wakes up in the bed, and then they leave the time loop, and then the time loop resets, and you
Oh,
wake up in your bed,
shit.
you leave the time loop, and...
And what about like, okay, the time loop is already on its way. It is 9 a.m. in the morning, and you enter the time loop, you enter the area, you enter the town where it's going on, and you're still there, right? At midnight, you are sleeping in a motel in there or something, and then the next day, you are not affected by the time loop per se. Ooh, thank you very much for following the trends thing. You are not. Whether you are affected by the time loop or not, at 9 a.m. in the morning, you enter that time
enter
loop.
the town.
You enter the town, but you're still there. So there's just another one of you. Oh, that's so interesting. Time loops really are. I feel like time loop is like every single fucking like cartoon has a time loop episode. They never
None of them are
explore
exciting
this.
enough.
None of them explore this kind of stuff, do they?
That's
so interesting.
I fully believe deep inside myself that humans were never meant to understand the concept of time. I don't think we were made to understand how time works or could possibly work.
I don't think we're made to do anything. We just do things.
Okay, I don't think we're capable
but
of
yeah.
understanding them.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, time is often described as like the fourth dimension. So that makes, you know, we are only three-dimensional creatures. So how are we meant to understand that? It makes sense. Okay, so if someone enters a time loop, stays for half an hour, then leaves the time loop area, do they continue to loop for those 30 minutes while you were in there? If it's resolved during those 30 minutes, and are there now two of you? Right? Yeah. Trying to explain any time travel is at all is basically impossible. Yeah, but it's also cool and awesome, and I like it.
Yeah.
That's the second time we're talking about time travel this episode, or time shenanigans at least. Stargate has the best time loop episode. What episode is what's that one like? Sorry for interrupting.
That's fine. It does also ask the question because obviously, like, say the time loop is generating like new versions of you, then like obviously they're not clones. There was no like breaking point there. There's no breaking off point. So like you must all be the original you, but like there's multiple.
Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
you
there's
can't
no-
say which is
there's
the
not even
original at that point.
Yes, it's not even so much of like pointing out, oh yeah, this is the point where he stepped in the cloning machine, because there's no breaking point. They're just all, it's all one continuous line for each of them.
Yeah, it just keeps going.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's fucked up, dude. Shit, dude. I've seen Interstellar. You can't fool me. It's all big boxes. What, time? Time is just a bunch of big boxes? If I got caught in the time loop, I'd catch up on my sleep debt.
I said, does the time loop create extra souls?
Oh, I guess if souls are a thing, if it doesn't, that would be the one way to tell which one is the real one.
Yeah. Because obviously, like, souls, like, traditionally are meant to come out from outside time. Like, heaven is outside of time, so, like, if there's a limited number of souls in heaven, that's a matter that's coming from outside of not only the possible time loop but the timeline. So, how does that work?
Using time loops to just completely destroy heaven's soul economy.
Soul economy.
The soul economy. But yeah, I would also, if I got caught in a time loop, first, of course, I'd be like, oh no! And then, ow! And then I would definitely just be like, okay, I'm just gonna do a bunch of things that I've been wanting to do. I got a lot of games to catch up on. I'm gonna sleep in real good. I've always wanted to go to that one place in the forest. I haven't been there in a while. I'm just gonna go there, you know, just gonna hang out. Meanwhile, the evil witch that trapped me in there is just like, can she learn her lesson? Please.
Please learn your lesson.
I'm just sitting here waiting. You're just having fun. What the fuck? You know?
I always... Oh, we're getting deep into it. I'm like I'm thinking, because obviously every time there's a time loop, right? Like a time loop episode, we always have a point of view character.
Yes.
And like at the beginning of each time loop, obviously everyone else's like memories seem to reset. So like, how does because obviously everyone is their own individual point of character. So does other people's memories reset, or like, or are we going back into creating clones again? Because obviously there's another version of you that knows that you're in a time loop.
Well,
You know what I'm saying?
I think so. It depends on which time loop story we're talking about, because sometimes the protagonist doesn't get their memory wiped, sometimes they do, but usually everyone around them just gets their memory wiped.
Yeah.
Right? So I wouldn't say that they're clones. I think it's literally just a portion of their memory from from that day just gets removed, you know? I don't think it's cloning or anything.
Was it removed, or was it never there to begin with?
Good question. Also, there are very few time loop stories where everybody remembers, everybody in the time loop knows, but you can do a lot of interesting stuff with that, you know?
But if everyone knows you're in a time loop, does the because we could be in a time loop. Like, if everyone knows that you're in a time loop, then surely you would know because you do different stuff every day anyway. So, how I guess you'd have to notice the patterns of the clouds, maybe.
Well, no, like if you just
No.
you can just know, you know, like if I'm like, all right, it is Tuesday, December 4th, and then I go to bed, and then I wake up and it's like, all right, time for it to be Wednesday, December 5th, and then it's not. I think I'm gonna know.
Okay,
know?
but I'm saying if everyone's in a time loop, then
Yeah,
that's
everyone.
just gonna get updated anyway. Because like the person whose job it is to update would do that. Maybe they'd just be confused about why it's not happening automatically, but someone would probably try and fix it. Like your phone would probably update because someone at HQ would be like, "Oh, this didn't for some reason no one's calendar updated." Let me fix
That's like
that.
if that's like if everyone, if the whole world is in a time loop, but usually a time loop is localized, right? When like, or at least story-wise, like maybe it's the entire world that's in a time loop. But when we're talking about like time loops, usually are condensed to like a single town or sometimes even like a house or something. And the stories that I know of where everybody knows it's not everyone. It's not the entire world that's in the time loop. It's an area. It's a pocket of the world. You know?
Yeah, I guess that's fair enough.
Also, Chad's been saying a lot of stuff. Let me just go back and catch up.
Really.
What happens to everyone unaware of this? Okay, you said that. Groundhog Day plot debate. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Is this just a pocket dimension of the main universe for you to live out the time loop? And if so, what happens to all the duplicate people at the end? Do they die? Just cease to exist? I assume they just cease to exist. You know? Although, what often happens... Well, no. No, yeah, what usually happens, right, is that the person keeps repeating, and then one day they get it right. They do the thing that they're supposed to do, right? They get their lesson, they kill the thing, and then they go to bed, and then they wake up and they check their phone and it's like, oh, yay, it is the next day. So it's not that like the moment, they are not in a pocket dimension with clones. Because everything they do still happened on that last day, right? So
Yeah.
the people...
Unless it's like layers. Like, you know when you're drawing and you have layers and then you merge your layer down and it overwrites what's underneath it.
Oh. Interesting. Huh. Could be like that. Maybe God is just drawing on a digital canvas, you know?
Perhaps.
Yeah. And when a day when a day feels really messy and kind of hard to it just feels like too much, it's because he accidentally drew on the wrong layer and now he can't fix it anymore.
I'm feeling awfully sketchy today.
Me
I
when I
don't
do
understand.
crimes.
I'm on the line. I'm on the line, Leia. What's happening?
Okay, Stargate Season 4, Window of Opportunity. It's a Groundhog Day style time loop where the two least technical individuals keep the memories, so have to be taught all the tech necessary to resolve it in the 4 hours or so the loop lasts. But it takes more than 3 hours each time to persuade everyone else that they're not barking mad.
Okay,
That
that's
is
actually
fun,
something I like
actually.
about Star Trek. Is that the later season of Star Trek? Because at that point time loops and stuff are so well documented because there've been so many time loop stories. Like if someone tells you they're time loop, there's protocols for it and there's people to deal with it. Like you can actually tell someone you're in a time loop and they'll start taking it seriously like near instantly because they're like, okay, we're prepared for this.
That's funny, actually. That's good.
Yeah.
God, I'm thinking about that one Star Trek episode where Picard, like, wakes up inside this kind of medievalish village and just lives his whole life there.
Yeah.
You know that episode?
What are you talking about? Yeah.
God, this is such a good fucking episode.
It is.
It's amazing. What's that episode called again?
I cannot remember.
It also has a very nice name. I'm sure someone in chat knows.
Every episode of Star Trek is just called, yo, what if this fucked up shit happened? Wouldn't that be nuts?
Yeah, pretty much. The thing about loop is about time loop is everything would be the exact same temperature, same weather, same animal patterns. Yep, that's yep. Huh? I love a time loop story in a community where everyone's aware that it's so cool sounding. It exists. I know at least one, but I don't know it by name. It's a book, but I'm just gonna because I'm also gonna say I haven't read this book. I only know about it because of a video about time loops that I will send you guys. If you guys know the essayist Jacob Geller, he did a video called Time Loop Nihilism, which I will put in chat. Boom. Here you go. Don't watch it right now because we're streaming, and we will play the game soon. Maybe. But go watch it at another time, definitely. Jacob Geller's essays are amazing. Some of my favorites. They're not like essays made by like H-Bomber guy or anything where it's like, haha, so funny. Ooh!
You can stop me. I'm watching it now.
No! Dang it.
I can't stop you, delete the link.
There you go. But Glafcomet, thank you very much for subscribing. Very good videos, but they are like, they're very strong, sometimes a bit dark, but they are extremely fucking good though. Some of them are funny, but a lot of them are existentialism and that kind of stuff. But the time loop nihilism video is very good, and he does talk about a book where about like a town where everybody is aware of the time loop, and it's interesting.
My favorite time loop is the Stanley Parable. I think that one's a good one.
It is actually. I like that one. Anyway, we'll go back to the game now.
Yeah, let's stop talking about what caused us to talk about time loops again.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Okay, if we'd planned this bit ahead, it would be funny if I asked that question, then we recreated that what caused us to talk about time loops, then we repeat the conversation.
That would be good. Oh, welcome back. Thank you very much for your egg. And for the sippy. There's also the self-inflicted time loop where a person is keeping themselves in a loop for some reason. Also very, very interesting. Usually because like they're trying to keep someone else alive or something. Yeah. Oh, fucking Kagura Project has one like that, kind of. Well, it's not self-inflicted. Might be self-inflicted. Who's to say?
Anyway, Sarissa, you look like you have something to say.
Do you?
Do you?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Jody. Say, Jill, do you know a lot about mags? I never thought about them. Of course, because they're integral to understanding, to getting a good build in this game.
I never. Jill just looks at the thing flying next to her head and goes, huh?
What the fuck is that? What the fuck is that?
What's that?
Grabs it out of the air and just smashes it on the ground. You know?
My God, I've saved us all.
I've saved the world. That must have been Mother.
Yay!
Of course. Oh, really? Could you tell me what you know? Huh? Oh, Jill, you're lying. Do you have to crack jokes now? Why am I lying?
Would you lie to your girlfriend?
Here. I didn't. I know things about them. They just decided.
If you would like, I could tell you what I know about mags.
No, that's okay. And then I skipped the
like,
conversation.
Oh, really? Wow, you're so much hotter than my girlfriend now.
No,
because you didn't lie to me.
No, no. And then I killed the Ms. Lindo.
Oh no.
Sarissa loves time loops because no matter how much tree bark she eats, there's always more for her to eat the next day.
Sarissa, we've been over this. You're in a time loop. The tree regrows.
We need to get out of the time loop.
You're not in a time loop.
But the tree bark, it'll regrow. Yeah, thanks to the time loop. No!
Imbecile.
I got something in
Having
my eye.
accepted the quest, I believe you have the right to know.
Yeah. Sorry.
Mags are artificial life forms that are made using pre-Great Blank technology. Each one has emotions, a personality, if you will. They are made to accompany registered users specifically. Oh, that's fucked up. The registration itself can be rewritten using a special system. That means a mag can be traded to another user. In our city, we provide mags free of charge to new hunters if they do not already have one of their own.
Ignore it, you start the game with a mag.
Well, you already had one of your own, obviously.
Oh yeah, alright, checks out. Never mind then.
It was given to you by the Great Deku Tree. It just floats next to you and gives you advice, you know?
Yeah, it goes, hey, listen, and all that stuff, and it's not even that often that it's actually annoying. People just overexaggerate.
I've never understood that. I've never found Navi particularly annoying, to be honest.
No, me neither.
That reminds me, Sarissa, you already had a mag when you joined our guild.
Yes. Before I came here, I was given one as part of my equipment.
My genocide equipment.
This thing shoots death lasers.
This thing is purposely built to track down humans and kill them.
Ow. Hello, Crimson Flasher, welcome. Thank you for your egg.
This thing's just specifically built to track down humans and kills them, and Kai just grabs out the air and smashes it on the floor.
I saved us all. That must have been Mother. I saved us all. That must have been Mother.
There are also people who manage to find unregistered mags and claim them as their own.
I'm learning so much. I'm so eepy for some reason.
Oh.
She's supposed to be learning a life lesson, but for the last 6,000 loops, she's done nothing but eat tree bark. Hey, you know, it doesn't take much to me to. It's good that she doesn't need much to be happy, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think Sarissa even noticed. She's just amazed by the speed the tree regrows. She sits in the woods and eats tree bark all day. She doesn't like see anything that would make her, you know, realize everything was different, or like everything was the same rather.
See, the thing is, there was no trees on the moon, so she landed and she's instantly like, "Wow, food grows from the ground here." Just takes a bite of a tree. She doesn't know there are other foods.
That makes so much sense. That explains it. She just was on Earth, and she had heard that on Earth, food grows on plants, and she's like, "Well, this looks like a plant. Let me have a taste." Oh my gosh! Hey, I like this a lot. You know.
I love the crunch.
I love that crunch. It makes so much sense now.
However, for the most part, mags are supplied by cities and so on to individuals. Eating poison.
The mental image. The mental image of Sarissa just landing and immediately like running over to a bush and just dropping to her knees, just shoving poison ivy down her mouth and being like, "Woohoo, yay!"
How does Poison Ivy feel about this?
I think she probably frick you. Just tearing her apart.
Tearing her apart.
Fucked up.
Wow, food grows out of the ground here.
My legs! Does poison ivy have the composition of a plant too, do you think?
I don't know. I think she is green, so
I think you could just tear her like paper.
yeah. I think she's a plant. I mean, she's full plant.
Kind of base. Eating the poison ivy going, this must be that spice I've heard so much about. Oh my god, she's
Tastes
an
like
idiot.
prion disease.
But wait, that means that she would also be a plant because prion disease is what you get when you eat a thing of your own. But only for humans. Why are we poisoned to ourselves? This is so funny.
I've asked,
Like,
I asked that question to you before about like why are we poisoned to ourselves? Because like
Yeah.
other animals, like I know, like rabbits and hamsters and stuff, they eat their own young and they're fine. Like,
Yeah,
why is
right?
it just us?
It's like we are poisonous only to ourselves. Other animals can eat us. That's fine.
Yeah.
But not each other. Why?
Why
did
has
we
God
evolve that?
cursed us with this?
Anyway,
We're never getting through this fucking cutscene.
please try.
Okay, I've read this part.
Oh, okay, sorry. Mechanical life forms. Wow. So these little guys can get angry or sad?
Since they have no means of expressing emotions, it's impossible to determine for certain the range of... That's so sad!
Yeah!
Determine for the range of emotions. They have no mouth, yet they must scream.
Yet they must scream. They're always wanting to scream. That's their emotion.
They're always screaming, really. We
They're
just can't
always
perceive
screaming.
it.
Are they screaming sad,
Yes.
angry, happy? No way of knowing. But they're screaming.
They're screaming. They curse us for creating them. As beings with emotions, perhaps they're not significantly different from us casts, or even people in general. Yeah, they've got emotions. What do you mean?
Yeah, dude. Why can't I play as a mag?
Is it relevant that they have emotions? Is there a reason they bring this up?
I wonder if it was relevant.
Because they've never they've just been there for the whole game. Like no one's really pointed them out. But now
No.
we're learning they have emotions. It's like why? Why is that important? Why is that important? Why did you have to write them to have emotions but unable to express them?
It's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
I feel like you could do something with that. It is also interesting because your mag starts out as just like a little orb, but as you feed it things, it can transform and take on more like creaturey forms. And surely then it would be able to like use body language better, right?
Yeah. Wait. Also, like the fact that apparently this seems like this is under NDA, so like the general public doesn't even know they
Oh
have
my
emotions.
god! Wait, that's fucked up. You're right.
Yeah. Like. What? Why?
Well, that's
Why
so
is
messed
Why
up.
is this not allowed?
You're distributing these living, thinking creatures with emotions to people. And you're not even telling them that, like, hey, you're taking care of an actual sentient being now. What the hell?
You're just like, here, have this robot that will help you. It's like, what? Why wouldn't you tell people? What is going on?
That's weird.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that.
Just a hovering orb that cannot express anything to you, but it actually has emotions and like it can think, but you don't even know about it. That must be an awful existence for that fucking
Yeah.
orb.
That's... God. What the hell, Phantasy Star Zero? I did not realize that when I was younger. It's fucked up. That is literally like I have no mouth and I must scream.
Yeah.
Like literally the phrase, not literally the book, of course.
Yeah.
It's not like the book. Or
It's
is
not
it?
like the book.
It might be.
It's not.
Maybe Mother is kind of Am, you know, if you really think about it.
She does seem to have a lot of hate in her heart.
Yeah, sure does. Their emotional range is Why would you program me with the ability to get depression, but not the ability to receive therapy? Me as a kid, enjoying the fun robot game. Me as an adult, horrified at the implications of sentient robots. Not so much the implication of sentient robots, but the implication of limiting sentient robots in their self-expression and communication.
Hey Zoe, I've trapped your entire thought process and being into this rock. And I'm just gonna put it on this table for everyone to ignore you forever.
Well, not just ignored forever, but also
Just ignore-
to sometimes
you're gonna
serve
be used as a
purpose.
paperweight.
Exactly, yeah, as a paperweight, I was gonna say.
Horrifying.
Oh my god.
I hate Max now.
Fucked up. Why is it confidential? That's maybe we'll hear about it. Who
Yeah.
knows?
Yeah, maybe.
I see your point. Gee, I guess I'll have to treat mine better than ever.
Yes, we don't. We hate the music.
Oh, this is so sad. You cut out like a bunch.
So,
Oh, you still
I'm
are.
still
Your
on.
internet's not doing too hot.
oh, really?
Yeah.
I
Ow.
think a single phone in my own stream.
Well, right now you're fucking up big time. Chad, is my stream okay? It looks like it would be on my end. I have 0 drop frames.
I'm gonna think about my shit. I don't want to.
Okay, do whatever you just said. Stream's fine? Alright, okay. How weird. Anyway, hey, we're playing a game. Did you know that this game is an action JRPG and not just not just like a visual novel? Let's give the robots the ability to have an existential crisis. That can't go horribly wrong. I'm sure it's fine. Surely they will. I don't think that's gonna come up in this game. We're already dealing with. We're already dealing with space elves after all. Miss, I guess I'll just be Jody for a little bit. Ms. Lindo, can you tell us a little bit more about Mags? Certainly. I can tell you more than a little, if you prefer. This may sound rude, but would casts and mags be extensions of a common design concept? Ah, getting into the real questions. Unlike the question of why the fuck did you do that to the mags? Why'd you build them like that? Of course I understand that casts are people no different from humans and Newmans. No, it is exactly as you say. I take no offense from it. There has been research in that direction. Mags are said to be byproducts of an accident during an experiment before casts were made. Casts were born shortly thereafter. There is no question that mag research played a role in that process. Simply put, mags were here before casts came into being. Your guess is essentially correct. Ah, so casts are like single-celled. No, wait. Mags are like single-celled casts. I guess that means if there were no mags, casts may never have come about. Maybe we should be thanking mags for making it possible to meet all the different casts. I wonder if mags can understand gratitude. Give them items. Eat them. Petting them is cute though. They eat items, and they grow stronger if you give them items. But petting is nice. Let's pet. I think we should pet. Pet is nice. Humans and humans and numals and movements. Oh, that's a good idea. Hello, little baby boo. Oh, so cutie. Did that make it happy? I can't really tell. Jody, are you back yet?
Oh,
Yeah, you're still here. Hello.
Oh, fine. I've been trying to talk this whole time.
Well, you've
but
been. I have not been hearing you.
I think my Discord is breaking because I've been able to hear you and watch the stream. But, like Discord, like did its RPC connecting thing briefly, and then it did a bunch of other fuckery. So I think it might actually be Discord that's the problem and not my internet.
Cool. Well, you're still fucked. Also, you're still. I can hear you better now, but you're still mechanical. Have you tried restarting Discord?
I haven't. Let me do that now.
Yeah.
Goodbye, Zoe.
Goodbye, Jody. I shall miss you.
I still talk.
I don't know what she said at the end. Damn, finding another big monkey. Ow. I'm honestly never quite sure what the chain thing is. I guess it's just.
Hello.
Good. Hello.
How do I sound now?
Not too good, I think, but talk some more.
Hello, it's me, Jody. Hi.
Yeah, you're still mechanical. It does
God,
sound
fuck.
maybe a little bit less bad again. Let me also try restarting Discord. Oh. Hello, gear on black background, grayish, transparent background. Waiting for Discord to start up. Hello?
Hello? Ooh.
Hello? Yeah, no.
No. Okay, well, I've done several internet speed tests. My internet's fine, so it must be Discord.
Cool. Thanks, Discord. I guess we'll just have to wait it out.
Okay, do you want me
Frog.
to leave?
What did you say?
I said, would you like me to leave? Am I too bad to be here?
Well, I mean, how would we know when it's good again? If
I
you're not
guess
here.
that's true.
Oh, there you are. It's just... Your PNG was not showing up, and I was like, why not?
Because Discord hates me now.
Ah, of course. Even... I mean, yeah, I guess... No, it's not because of Discord, is it? Because
No,
it
it's
goes
not,
through, like,
'cause
the
it's
reactive PNG thing. Which
No, I
does
guess if
technically
reactive
go...
Yeah, I guess if reactive PNG is having trouble, like, contacting Discord servers, then that would make sense.
Right. That does make sense, actually.
Which seems to further, put further towards my theory that it's Discord's problem.
I support that theory because I hate Discord.
That makes sense.
Chat, is anyone... We leveled up!
It's not yet the gun.
Oh yeah, he loves to use his big gun. Is anyone right now in a call, watching us stream in a call, experiencing similar problems?
You joke about it all the time, to be honest.
I have no idea what you just said.
I'm sorry.
No, what did you say? It's not your fault.
I said you joke, but I do that all the time. I watch streams of people wearing calls.
Oh, it's fun.
Like sometimes I watch your stream when I talk about Sven and stuff, so...
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Has anyone in chat ever done that? Not specific, well, no, I guess. Has anyone ever watched my streams in call with someone? Has anyone ever used, has anyone ever used my stream as like just an activity to do together with someone, either online or in person? I think that's an interesting question. Is it a bomb? Ow. It was a bomb.
A bomb. Bomb. So reporting is everyone in a Discord call now whose call is fucking up?
Yeah, exactly. That's what I want to know. Is anybody currently in a Discord call? And is their quality really, really bad?
And if so, can you please kill whoever's in charge of networking?
Please.
Pretty please.
It'd be so nice of you. All these little dudes are fun. Look at them.
Yeah.
They're weird little crab things in the block.
The crab thing.
Let me just kill these last enemies. Oh, nice. What's also very funny is Ogi is the class that I'm like the kind of character that I'm supposed to be playing, which is with a gun. Because I'm just playing the female robot gunner, but I'm just using melee weapons anyway.
I mean, it's your brand. You've got to use melee weapons.
Yeah, it's true. What would I do otherwise? Also mildly cloudy. Thank you very much for your egg. I've tried to get my partner to check out streamers I like, but to no avail. Break up. Just kidding.
I just searched Discord on Twitter, and yeah, people are 8 seconds ago. Discord is fucked. So yeah, it's Discord.
Alright, well,
So
at least we
sad.
know.
Yeah, voice chat's broken right now. Yeah, okay, yeah.
Wait, is this just... Whoa, look, this is like ultra rare item that just increases
Yo.
our stats permanently, I think.
That's pretty sick. Oh, if possible, could you reshare the screen,
Oh,
please? Sorry.
right, of course.
Yeah, I wanted to wait for a convenient time.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing also the connection's not great on my end either for Discord.
Yeah. It only happens when you speak, surprisingly enough. If you don't speak, it stays green, then the second you speak, it goes down to red.
What?
Yeah, someone twerked that out, and I've been looking, yeah, that's the case. The second you speak, it goes down to red.
What the fuck, dude? This is stupid.
It is so stupid. I hate Discord so much forever.
Yeah, me too.
I feel like I don't know what else we would use, to be honest. Unfortunately, everything is a monopoly.
Yeah. I also don't know. I just keep getting the same fucking item. It's the wands that I can't use because I can't do magic.
My plan is I'm going to get an old phone headset and to just phone you, and you can connect that to your computer.
Genius. Does that mean you can just call me on your phone?
I guess that's true.
Like, can
Don't
you
want
fucking
your
stop
phone
shooting
number.
me?
Tell me right now on stream.
I will. I'm going to tell you.
Oh, thank you. Remember the 3 wacky numbers on the back.
What if I then just? What if I were to say a number, but it's yours?
No, that's scary. What a guess.
But that would be scary. What if I said a number, and I'm looking at every single individual chat member, and also Jody, and also every VOD watcher, but it's yours.
Fucked up.
You know,
fucked up.
like whoever's listening to it, I am saying your phone number. You know, every Gauntlet Queen stream is
Sorry.
very personalized. What's up?
I've given a number between 1 and 10. What is it?
Between 1 and 10?
Mm-hmm.
6.
You just doxed me. Thank you. What the fuck?
Your phone number is 6. You got one of the very first phones.
It's true. And how the phone number 6 has been handed down with my family for generations.
Imagine if phone numbers were just you know, just numbered chronologically.
The reason our phones have the amount of buttons they do is that the inventors like I don't have more than 9 friends.
Man, I wish I probably got that joke. But Discord made that
Did
hard.
it- Oh, sorry.
Something about 9 friends.
Yeah, I said the original creator of the phone decided that he wouldn't have any more than 9 friends. That's why it has the buttons it does.
What about Ashley from WarioWare?
Fuck
She's got more than 9 friends, I think. Which is more than most people playing the game would have.
That one's the it's true.
The fucking post is so fucking funny, dude.
I love the correction afterwards. That's like we apologize for inadvertently suggesting you have no friends.
That's so funny. I shall now join a very exclusive group. Jody, could you shuffle about 1.5 steps to your left?
That's the end of the robot.
One and a half steps to your left. Isn't that where I'm standing?
Oh yeah, that would be my left. Yeah, I think that's everyone's drop something on my head.
Okay. Will you comply?
Sure.
Okay. I'm gonna be right back.
Okay.
Oh, here she goes. She shuffled a little bit. Ooh.
I'm fucking scared, dude.
Car battery!
Ah!
Ow! Ow, that
I
hurt.
can't believe you would hurt my friend like that. Oh! Ah! I feel like this is also still intended for you. I'm so sorry. Ah!
This is yours now. you have this dubious honor.
It's yours, my friend. As
Just know
long
my pinch isn't talking anymore, that's fine, there's not what you can do about that.
Why isn't it?
I did Discord.
Discord. Oh, I died!
You died?
Yes.
That's fucked up. Please come back as a cool thing.
I might. Also, there was an egg that I missed at some point, so sorry, it's there now.
Oh, it's Queen Fennec and Dusty.
And Dusty, don't forget. Doo-doo-doo.
Really, you get twice the model for your money.
So true. I really deliver with my my content, you know. Da 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 da.
No chances it's got any better, is there?
No.
Oh.
Okay.
This fucking program got me howling at the moon for real.
For real, for real. Hello. Hi. Can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere, you people.
No. God, fucking the meme maker is so fucking funny when people do short for Queen of Fennec. Because it really is just her like angrily peeking over the edge, like I'm not. Hello.
It is. I just find it slightly funny when I'm standing next to you as well.
Yeah. You're right. You've. Oh my God! You've eclipsed Jody J. Lope's ears. Be afraid. I need to be afraid? Shouldn't you be afraid of my even bigger ears?
Ears.
Ears?
Ears.
Ears.
Make fun of your massive ears. They're too massive.
They're for heat regulation. Fuck off. You don't have to shout. I can hear you just fine thanks to my big ears.
Massive ears.
Whatever. Anyway.
Satellite dish ears.
Shut up!
Fucking picking out radio signals to those things, bitch.
What? Well, whatever. Do the voice. Do your fucking dialogue.
I'm sorry. I believe
I should have bought grapes when I went to the store
destination.
today. Damn. Anyway, go on.
Perhaps this is why your legs appear to be happy as well. What do you mean they appear to be happy? You
I
said
thought they couldn't express
emotions.
emotions. To hell.
Incidentally, Jewel, do you know about photon blast? Well, that's not left field, isn't it?
Wow.
Oh, here are these sentient robots who cannot display emotions. Oh, so let me tell you about photon blast.
It's just really like, wow, Jody, your dog seems very nice. Do you know about nukes?
That's new when people refuse to accept that that you're afraid of dogs. They're like, oh, don't worry, my dog doesn't bite. Wow, your dog seems very nice. Let's go about nukes.
Yeah. God, there was another time the other day where I was like walking through my neighborhood, and there was a dog. It wasn't like a big dog, but it was still a dog. So you know, on one side of the road, and I just sort of walked around it with a wide berth. And then the owner, who was a little ways away and didn't have the dog on a leash because dog owners are stupid, was like, "Oh, he doesn't bite," and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that doesn't matter. I have a phobia." And he was like, "Oh, okay. I thought you were scared." Yeah. Did you think I said allergy? What? Fucking idiot.
I'm sorry, I have a phobia. If I get close, I start sneezing.
Anyway. Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm going to talk about it anyway.
Mags have emotions. They're influenced by their master's feelings. The mag share the pain the masters in the combat, and also the elation. These emotions are stored as energy.
This is fucked up, dude.
Yeah,
it's like, yeah, your creatures that can't express emotions feel your pain and suffering.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Maybe I understand why this is under NDA. I
don't know what you said. Maybe you understand what?
I understand why this is under NDA because this is fucking horrifying.
It is, yeah, it is. But if we knew, then we'd be able to take measures to not make them suffer.
Oh yeah, because the government never keeps anything.
Fair point.
If the energy exceeds capacity, the mag discharges are all at once to relieve the pressure. Discharge energy is shaped according to the mag's attributes and given different effects. We call the results of the discharge process photon blasts.
So make sure to suffer as much as possible, so that you can do a lot of photon blasts. Make your mag as miserable as you can. They change emotions into energy, then discharge it?
Simply, if a mag's emotions bring it to the verge of explosion, it vents the emotions as energy.
Like in Among Us.
Wait, what?
Vents.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. So that's what happens. Huh? My mag is shivering. Does that mean a photon blast is coming?
No, it means it's cold, you dumb fuck.
Give it a little blanket. Knit a little sweater for it.
Seems to be acting weary. Perhaps there are hostiles nearby.
It's true! We didn't notice them circling us. Oh, this is me still. I saw the name Miss Lindo and I was like, oh, okay. Miss Lindo, please step back.
I'm sorry. I'm counting on you.
Jill, let's go!
And then we leave. Due to my massive hungers.
Oh, fuck, it's the stupid boss.
Oh, why is it back again?
It makes no sense. This isn't like the octopus or the dragon where it makes sense to fight it more than once. Okay, hold on. I know what I'm gonna do. My photon blast is actually ready. So what I'm gonna do?
I know the truth about Max. Kill them.
If you think about it, this is like the ship that Reed, the Sarissa's boss, is in, but isn't it kind of like these are really big mags? Maybe?
I guess so. Wow, that really is something to think about.
Much to consider. Anyway, I'm gonna wait until they're...
These ones are quite...
Sorry, huh?
Sorry, I was gonna say these ones are quite capable of expressing emotions and they hate you.
They hate you. But I'm gonna wait until they're together in the middle and then I'm gonna use my photon blast on them.
Fair enough. Maybe counts my voice ability is though.
It's now. Here we go.
No.
Woo!
Yeah, that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it is. I think it does like 200 something damage, which is not that much, honestly. But
Well, that's
whatever.
pretty cool. I can see why we enslaved these sentient creatures for it.
Oh no! Maybe,
What a
you know,
weird
maybe
world.
the Newmans were right to destroy humans.
Maybe.
Assuming humans
What
did
if
this,
this
which
is
yeah.
What if this is like, this is like this religious genocide? It's more of a, what's the word? I can't think of the word when you free someone from slavery.
Right, yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking, yeah.
Yeah, maybe they're coming to save the mags. Maybe that's the plan.
Well, the problem is that Sarissa also has a mag, so...
That's true. What if maybe Sarissa mags there willingly to help their comrades?
Ah, perhaps. Ow.
Much to think about. Much to consider.
Much to consider. I think we've really uncovered something today. Okay.
You died, but it's fine because you're bad.
It's fine because I didn't.
You didn't. You thought you died, but you didn't.
I've kind of hate this boss, I'm gonna be honest. These stupid things just don't stay in one place, and the slowdown is really annoying. They don't telegraph their stuff that well because they are virtually unmoving. They just sort of float around the area. Must have been so easy for the animators, these things. Like, all that happens is that drill that spins, that's it.
Yeah. Really easy boss. Discord is breaking down further because now the screen share is disintegrating.
Oh, god damn it, Discord.
Why are you doing this, Discord? We trusted you. Briefly. Very briefly.
For like a while.
Yeah.
They had a good few years there. I just don't understand how they keep, like it's becoming less stable. Like, what are you doing?
I don't know. Like, I guess they just keep tacking so much useless shit onto the program that's disintegrating in front of our eyes.
I guess so.
What on earth was that noise?
I hope nobody buys Nitro ever again.
Me too.
Dang it. I hate slowdown so much. It's so slow down. Is the thing about it. Much to think about.
Much to think about.
No. Oh, no.
Okay, so going a bit off topic from the game here, but Kotaku has written an article called Hideo Kojima is, quote, too tired and exhausted these days. That's the article, the headline, right? And there's about a tweet where Hideo Kojima tweeted out, "I'm just too tired and exhausted these days." That's the end of the tweet, and they wrote an article based on that.
That is funny. What's the article
Just
like?
tweeted out. It's just them saying, "Oh yeah, Hideo Kojima says he's too tired and exhausted these days."
I'm gonna do that with fucking Hideki Naganuma's tweets. Who just talks about the weirdest shit all the time. It's like Hideki Naganuma needs a cat girl mommy stat.
I think I would be more interested in these articles than anything Kotaku is putting out recently.
Yeah, honestly.
Something is up with this game developer. Let's look into it.
God, I think it's so funny. Sorry, go on.
No, what you should do is you should get those tweets where it says, "Oh, I need a cat girl, mommy, GF or whatever." And then pretend you don't understand it. Like, is this a hint for a future video game?
No,
What
exactly,
could this
exactly.
mean?
What game will he be composing for next?
So interesting.
I still think it's so fucking funny that that Naganuma, who for those who don't know, is the composer for the Jet Set Radio games, and has worked on a lot of like indie games as well, and it's very good. And also Ollie King is also a game he worked on. Very good soundtrack on that. Some of his best work, if you're asking me, actually. But a lot of people don't know about it. For a while, he just dipped off the internet. He was like a very strong presence on Twitter. Tweeted a lot, got a whole like cult following on there and stuff. Questioned his gender for a while, and experimented with presenting female. But I think he was like, no, I'm good. But still, is very like supportive of his trans community and stuff. He just disappeared for a while. It was just. He just disappeared.
Just vanished?
And then he came back recently, and it was basically the moment that like the Jet Set Radio sequel / remake / whatever the fuck it's gonna be. It's not gonna be as good as Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Got announced, so I'm pretty sure he just was busy working on that, and he gets so many questions all the time of like, hey, when are we gonna get a new Jet Set Radio? When is it gonna happen? Hideki, when's it gonna happen? When are you gonna do that? And he just kept being like, you have to ask Sega. That's not up to me. So I think he was just like, yeah, I'm just not gonna do that right now because we're actually getting one. You know?
I'm gonna wait until they announce it, then I'll come back.
Yeah.
So people stop asking me. Hey, but I'm getting a new Jet Set Radio.
Now, motherfucker.
Damn.
Well, 2024.
See, he should just responded, you have one, it's called Bomber Cyberpunk.
Yeah, honestly.
Be happy. Why can't you fucks be happy with anything?
I mean, I am happy. I have it now. I haven't played it yet. I want to mod myself in there. But from what I've played, it's I played only the tutorial and it's good, you know?
It reminds me of your favorite game, No Straight Roads.
Does it?
They also have roller skates. Do they have roller skates or are they running that game?
They're just running around.
I thought they had roller skates now, man.
No,
Something about it reminds me of Jet Set Radio.
I mean, yeah,
Might
they
just be the
have
art style.
similar themes.
Yeah.
Both are like rebelling against authority through an art form. And both are very like loudly and unapologetically clear about their statements and stuff. It's good.
It's good.
And they have cool art styles and wild, really good character designs. And very good soundtracks.
It does have a good soundtrack. Most of your music is No Straight Road sound music.
Oh yeah, most of it on
Seems like
screen.
it.
It's a lot of that, a lot of Sonic. A lot of No Straight Roads, that is true. Can this fucking end? This is torture.
A lot of no straight people.
Of course. Extremely important, no straight people allowed. Straight is bad.
If you are straight, you must leave the stream now.
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry.
Those are just the rules, I just make them.
You can watch the VOD, but the live shows are for only queer people.
When does this end, dude? We've been fighting this dude for like 15 minutes at least.
It doesn't end. It's invincible, actually.
Is it? Maybe
Yes.
it is.
They
Oh, hey, it ended.
Oh, okay.
Also, you sound good again, I think.
Oh, nice. You sound worse.
Oh.
But that's
Huh.
fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
Well,
They fixed
I'm the
my
one
server.
streaming,
And
so...
They fixed my server, then transported the issue over to yours. Thank you so much, Hunters. It's now safe to recover the mags.
Hooray! Also, wait, how did I get here? It says Queen's ears versus Jody's ears versus Rakasil's pigtails. Who wins? I mean, Rakasil being the robot over there, by the way.
Yeah.
That depends on what the competition is. Is it a fight? Because then I feel like having, metal pigtails that kind of look like you could grab them and use them as a club or something. I feel like those would win in a fight.
If it's based purely on length, then the robot's got us beat. If it's based off on definition, I think I win, and if it's based on overall volume, I say you win.
Well, I don't know about the length either, because she's not actually here, and like her proportions aren't. She's not sized appropriately with us. You know what I mean? She's a bit bigger now. Because it's just like a picture.
Well, I guess so, yeah.
Because like she's this tall. Hold on, so it would be like, hold on. No. She'd be more like this?
Oh, she's kind of
I'd
small,
say.
actually.
Well, yeah, she's a teenager.
Okay, fair enough.
Teenagers are very little, don't you know? Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time.
It's true, I do have an antler-based backup. If you try to fight me, then you're just gonna get hurt, I think.
Well, are those part of your ears? Because then do
No,
I get to have my
because
crown?
Sure, but I think what you're saying is, like, say we had like an ear battle or something, then like there's no way of getting rid of the antlers. So
Right,
you gotta consider the parts around them. You know.
Fair enough. Dusty gets to join in then. Dusty is mostly ears
not part
anyway.
of your body.
No, but Dusty's got big ears. And he's around my ear,
Okay.
my ears as well. We're a big deal, dude.
Dusty has to count as his own character.
No, I love like duo characters, in fighting games and stuff. That stuff's very
I'm
fun.
sorry, you can't have 4 ears.
You're cringe, whatever.
You're not out here being a fucking char or whatever.
Well, anyway, Lucino Stardust, thank you very much for your egg. There's no way of getting rid of the antlers other than taking off the headband.
The headband is not holding on my antlers.
Or is it though?
No.
I think it might be. Anyway, let's quickly finish this
Stop
cutscene.
spreading misinformation.
Let's finish this cutscene before it's 9 p.m.
God, yeah, I've read this.
Yes.
Oh, we did it!
Yay! Hooray, everyone! Oh. Wow,
Oh,
there's
never
so
mind, that's
many
just
of
a
them.
waste.
There's some that are slightly different in shape, it looks like.
Mags are said to change their forms depending on how they are raised.
This is you still.
The mags here aren't significantly different from each other, but there are subtle color variations and so on. When items are given to a mag, it absorbs them as food. On ingesting certain amounts, a mag changes its form in a process called evolution.
Like Pokemon. These little creatures sure have useful features. Like the rhymes.
Yeah, that's not what it said, but it rhymed the way you said it.
Did I say it wrong?
Yeah, it said that these little guys have useful features. You added creatures.
Oops. Well, anyway. Carry on.
Yes, they are truly the byproducts of a miracle.
Presumably, we don't know what it was.
Yeah. When feeding them items, please be aware that depending on what they eat, the specs of the mags will change.
I'm yawning forever.
And done. All mags have been safely recovered. Shall we return?
No, we live here.
What do you mean?
Living here, haha, yay.
No, you can't live here. No,
Yeah, you live
have
here
to,
too.
You have to. No, you have to. We have to.
We live here
leave. You
together.
can't-
I'm destroying the teleporter.
What is wrong with you? Stop it.
Yay!
No, you're a psychopath. Stop it.
New perspective on life. Yay!
Hunters, thank you for your help today.
Gotcha.
Gotcha.
Okay, gotcha. We're finishing the cutscene, and then we're gonna take a break.
Okay. Hunters, thank you for your help today. Thanks, you were able to safely recover those mags without any trouble.
Oh no, thank you. We got to hear interesting facts, and it was a good experience too. I even leveled up.
It pleases me to hear that. I must take these mags to the guild's lab.
Where we will perform unethical experiments on them, given the fact that they are alive.
Yes.
And fully
No
sentient.
one must know.
You signed the
No
NDA.
one will ever know.
If you tell anyone, you get blown up.
You get blown up.
Finish this cutscene. That sounds familiar. 3-hour cutscene starts. Oh yeah, that happened last time.
No.
No, but this is a side quest. I'm sure that won't happen now.
Yes. Now let me tell you all about mags in excruciating detail. 2,000 years ago.
Let me tell you about the life of every mag I've ever seen in my life. That is my power. I just know that.
The first one was called Philip. He was a bitch ass.
Why was he a bitch ass, you ask? I will recount every single bitch ass thing he has ever done.
Before I leave, I must repeat, do not speak of this quest to anyone for whatever reason.
Fucking Christ, I'm yawning every time. Yeah, how
Nod. You
Nod.
just say nod out loud.
Nod.
No, how come
Nod.
though? I do want to know how come.
One sec, the screen shares fucking there. There are many mysteries surrounding the functions of mags. There may be those tempted to use technologies for nefarious or dangerous purposes. Until more research has been undertaken, we hope to minimize the risk. Well, if you don't know what maybe you shouldn't give them out to every single fucking citizen.
Yeah, seriously. That is clearly a bad idea. It makes no sense. Plus,
That's why I have to keep it.
if you want to be like, man, we want to make sure that people don't do bad things with these things, maybe you should make it public knowledge that they are living sentient creatures.
Yeah.
I feel like that would help, you know?
Yeah, definitely. What is wrong with these people?
Oh, fucking idiots. Who wrote this game?
The mayor was smoking weed. That's what the problem is.
Of course. What were they thinking, you know?
What would they think is true? That's why we hope to keep the secret, hope to keep secret the locations of mag recovery sites.
That part I understand. But not all the other stuff.
This doesn't. This is like, I don't know, moon landing truth or conspiracy shit. Like, why would the governments just keep the moon landings like secret for no reason? Oh, it's just cause they felt like it. They felt like fucking with you. No, it's more like flat Earth actually. Why are they keeping it for the secret? Oh, just cause.
Just cause.
You know? Yeah.
It makes absolutely no sense that they would, but they do it just cause. Yeah. It doesn't even make sense that it would be this way, that this is a thing that could be kept secret. But, it's fine. Just cause.
It's fine. We're gonna keep it a secret, just cause.
Just for funsies.
Just a little secret. Just
a little secret for us, you know? You're gonna have a little secret for funsies sometimes. That's exciting, isn't it?
Secret one has.
Yeah.
If anything else to come up, you'll be able to help us.
Man, so true, Robot Jody.
Oh fuck, not again.
Yeah, it's back. Well, hopefully after the break is gone. We want people to be
Playing
responsible,
a robot,
Max.
so.
What?
I said it's fine because I'm playing a robot. This is
Oh
realistic.
yeah, it checks out. We want people to be responsible with mags, but we don't want people to emphasize with them. That's what it is, yeah. We pinky swore we wouldn't tell anyone the moon landing was faked. The Martians made us pinky swear. These little guys these little creatures may have been protecting us all along in ways we didn't even know about. It would make life so much easier if Max could talk, don't you think? Oh well. I'm going to keep counting on you, sweetie. Replied to Sarissa.
Yeah.
Of course. I mean, I know she's talking to her mag, of course, but still.
It would make it so much easier if these little guys could talk, don't you think? Oh well, slaps out the air.
For no reason.
Well, they can't. I might as well abuse them as much as I can.
While I still have the chance before they develop speech.
Yeah. Oh, they can release powerful blasts through strong emotions. Okay, slam dunked it into the ground.
You have to be miserable. I hate you. Now destroy my enemies. And then they are nuked. Oh, I didn't mean to say that to you, Jill. I mean, I do call you my sweetie too, but you know, our mags are our partners too. We should treat them as such. Oh, Jill, you thought I was being childish, didn't you? No, I didn't, actually. No, you were fine. You were being fine.
Yeah. No, I thought you loved me.
I thought you loved me. I can't believe you would... Save game. And now we're going to take a break. Professor, I've used my 2 Master Balls to take control of and establish domination over both the creator and the little Satan of our universe. Well done, amateur trainer Red. You will make a fine Pokemon trainer someday. Now run along and practice battling with your new friends. I don't know, that's not really how Pokemon works. You do that stuff at the end of the game. After you've already battled with your friends a bunch. It is, however, kind of funny that, like, in, I don't know, I'm gonna say an average of, like, a month's time, the Pokemon protagonists go from, damn, how do you throw a Pokeball? To, I am the master of all gods in our universe.
So true. Thank you, old man, for teaching me how to throw a Pokeball. Hopefully this won't have any ramifications in a month's time.
Yeah. Submit the quest. Oh, never mind. We don't have any inventory space. So we'll have to do it next time, after the break. So, we are going to take a break. Because I'm gonna do my Estrogel. The break will take about... Yeah, exactly. The break will take about 20 or so minutes, during which we'll put on some nice music. And during this time, if you guys have any medicine that you have to take, please remember to do so. Remember to stay hydrated, stretch your leggies, get some snackies, and we will see you back in about 20 minutes to continue playing that video game.
Hopefully Discord will fix it, so it's fixed itself in 20 minutes.
Yeah. Please.
Yeah.
I really hope so. Okay, see you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hear it now, what is spoken, words are hanging in the air. Take control, feel what's happening, speak to only what is there. I am changed in my purpose, set in motion, come unlocked. I am found in this ocean,
to talk to the world. All my life I know the words, but never knew the way to really use them. Speak to only what you've heard, the words are there and you are passing through them. Was this here? Was this always? I was certain I was wrong. Now so clear, definitions plainly written all along. Ebbs and flows, so resounding. Waves are pounding in my ears. I can feel what you're proving. I am moving. I can hear all the words. All my life I know the words, but never knew the way to really use them. Speak to only what you've heard, the words are there and you are passing through them. Keep myself, I have control, but I was part of something whole. I'm broken, how I let it get away. Talking like I'm in a mirror, I would have to learn to hear. Nothing would be there for me to say. What could I say? What could I say? What could I say? What could I say? Say it now. There's your answer in the questions you have asked. Listen close, know you're welcome. Let these moments truly last. This is more than an echo. This is feeling, this is touch. Use your voice, make it clear now. You are here now, fall into hush. Last year was a total ball. This year is a total war. Last year was a total joke. This year we go up in small. 2020, you're a memory now. The lining up at the end of our town. 2020, you're a memory now. They wanna burn the government down. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Last year was a big mistake. This year, see the chessboard shake. Last year was a safety zone. This year is the great unknown. 2020, you're a memory now. We're coming up from the end of our town. 2020, you're a memory now. They wanna burn the government down. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Come on and burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Come on and burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Come on and burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Last year was a warning sign. This year is a firing line. Last year was a failing grade. This year is a midnight raid. 2020, you're a memory now. They're coming up from the end of our town. 2020, you're a punchline now. They wanna burn the government down. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. Burn, baby, burn, baby, burn, baby, burn. Ooh, I had a vision. care. We don't know what we want. We don't know what we want, but we want it now. Yeah, we want it now. And we know we have rights, written by magical men with the wave of a pen in the land of the free, where you don't have to be anyone at all. We don't know why we're here. We don't know why we're here, but we won't leave. No, we won't leave. We don't know when to stop. We don't know when to stop, and we won't slow down. No, we won't slow down. And we know we're in charge, with a license from God to take whatever we want in the land of the free, where you can give your disease to anyone at all, at all, at all, at all, at all. And we don't negotiate, and you can't retaliate. And we hold on to our hate, because it's all we have. And we don't think twice when it all comes crashing down, crashing down, crashing down. We don't know who we are. We don't know who we are, but we know where. We know where. And we love it to death. And you can't disagree, because it's all true to me, in the land of the free, where you don't have to be anyone at all. Don't pretend you really care. All you've changed is what you wear, what you say, and who you turn away. You think you're bad, so bad, with the flag that you've been waving, so bad, with the world you think you're saving, so bad. Is it a fight that you are craving? Maybe it's just food. Are you a bad enough dude to carry a torch, to ignite a feud, to change the whole world when you change your mood? It's hard to conclude. Are you bad or just rude? Can you honestly afford to spend your life a sandwich board? Your thick skin is only t-shirt thin. Your enormous
Hello?
sense of pride is just
Oh, for some reason I was muted on Discord. Hello. Hi. What?
Completely mute on Discord.
Squid.
Squid? I
Squid.
hate it when squid.
Oh, how do I sound?
You sound normal. How do I sound?
Normal.
Egg.
Yay!
Yay! Egg.
I'm still not moving, but we'll put up with that for now.
I'll try reloading your thing. Maybe that'll fix it. Just some
We
trans
might
girl.
break it more.
No, I'm sure it's fine. Thank you very much for no, not like whole Discord. I mean just like your PNG. Thank you
see,
very
I
much for
see.
the egg. So bad.
Truly, technology is a fickle thing and must be dismantled.
That's extremely true. Talk.
Hello, it is me.
It has done nothing.
Boo!
Boo.
I am sad now.
Well, we'll put up with it.
I will continue being sad about it.
Can't even see you be sad.
Oh, it's so sad. I'm just like a mag in that respect.
So true. So wise too.
Truly, I have no mouth, but I must scream.
You do have a mouth, just don't open. Which
It's true.
I guess it's less
I mean, if you've got a
bad.
mouth that doesn't, if you have a mouth that doesn't open, then you truly have a mouth.
Huh.
Like
I actually have an OC that doesn't have that has that. She has a mouth on her face, but it's just for shell, and her actual mouth is on her hand.
Huh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it
she's a
doesn't open
greenhouse
up,
plant.
it's just like a weird decal.
I guess so, yeah. It's a weird little groove on your face.
Mm.
Give me a moment to reapply my accessories.
Ah, yes, of course, of course.
But I hope everybody has had a good break. I hope you broke things
No.
really good.
Excuse me?
I hope you broke things really good. Like pots
Like what
and
things?
vases and doors and stuff, you know?
I hope you rolled around like a Link from Ocarina of Time and just smashed into everything.
I mean, haven't you ever wanted to go to a room that's just full of breakable shit
Pots.
and just go ham?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Right? Yeah, pots, for example. I want to do that in real
Every
life.
time I
Cs.
walk past a China shop, I'm like,
Wouldn't it be
your
fun?
days are numbered.
Yes.
China shop.
Oh, to be a bull right now.
If I was only a bull. Oh, woe is me, not being a bull.
The fucking Aunt Donna skit with Mr. Bull.
Yeah. Oh, if only I was a bull, then I would be so
stompy,
happy.
stompy, stomp,
Stompy, stompy, stompy.
stomp.
But alas, if I was born without horns, no
Which-
hooves adorn these feet.
I'm gonna be honest. I
Yeah.
can do without the hooves, but the horns, man. Why are we born without horns?
It's fucked up.
It'd be so cool to have horns.
It would be. I wouldn't mind having hooved feet, to be honest. Like, they wouldn't have to wear shoes then. I hate shoes.
You'd have to use
why I
wear
only wear-
horseshoes, which is
That's why-
worse because
that's-
they get jammed into your feet.
Maybe. That's why I only wear boots, because I hate shoes, because my feet aren't good sizes.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think I'm not sure if I've spoken with this to you about this, but basically I wear size 11 boots, right? But my feet are actually size 8, but they're too wide, so I cannot physically fit into a size 8. So like I wear size 11 even though like the front half is just basically empty.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Ugh. Man. Everybody should just get custom-made shoes, I think, for always.
Honestly though, I think they should just for free make you custom shoes.
And also, Just Some Transgirl says, those are places, rage rooms. That's true, yeah, rage rooms are like that, but it's not, okay, there is still a difference between a room where you have a box of things that you can start throwing against walls, and a room that is set up with pots and you can just barrel on through it and destroy it all that way, you know? That's still different, I think.
Yeah. There's a difference between being in a set place where you can smash things and going to a place of business where you can smash things.
That too, I suppose.
Causing the inconvenience is half of the fun.
That's true, that's so true. And I was gonna say something else. What were we talking about a moment ago?
No, shoes.
Shoes. Right. So,
Horns.
did I talk... No, it's about the shoes. Did I talk about the, that my shoes were broken?
This was a
Like
couple of
my
weeks
big
ago, wasn't
boots?
it?
It was a while ago, yeah.
Big boots, yeah, they split a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, one of them, the
Posted on the
sole...
Discord about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of them, the sole got loose from the... The platform, I guess? Yeah. Which one of you people is the storage unit again? I think it's down here. Wait, no, it's not. And so I procrastinated for a really long time to go into the city to the shoe repair place, the cobbler. Cobbler. Because I was because I was being stupid. And now I finally went last week, and I feel so stupid that I hadn't gone before because they are closed now because they're not closed, they're just open only very early because they're sick.
Oh,
which,
I see.
Which is big sucks because I wasn't there really early. And it'll be hard for me to go when it's really early. And so I was like, well, let me go to a different cobbler because there's more than one in the city. And so I went to a different one that's also closer to me. So hey, that would be useful, you know?
Yeah.
But no, this store was way more. It was much more proper than the other one, which is very much that one looks real. I don't know, down to earth. It just looks like they do the work right there. Whereas this other cobbler was like, oh
you
no,
went to the bougie cobbler.
That was very much what it felt like, you know. It was like it was all white. It was all white. They had like white rectangle shapes, and they had the shoes displayed prominently on them and stuff. And it's like, what the fuck are you doing? You know. So that's all the world of work was like. Oh no, you're not supposed to see us do the work. I know that's the whole point. So surely you want to display how you are doing your work, that you're really good at it and stuff up front, but no. Also, the other one that I usually
cobbler look like an Apple store.
That's what it felt like. It was very stupid. Also, the other one that I usually go to has Lego shoes amongst the regular shoes in the display window, like life-sized shoes, but made out of Lego. So you know they're fun, and they're anyway. So I go in there, and also you have to remember that I'm dressed like me, meaning all black, a lot of goth belts, all the accessories on the arms, tons of makeup.
You do not look bougie.
I don't look bougie at all. And so I stand there, and then the person comes out. It is an older man, and I presume that there was probably a security camera that he like saw me on, or maybe he was just having a bad day. But he came out looking fucking destitute already. He was just
Really?
Yeah, he just came out looking like, oh no, I'm gonna have to deal with this person now. Oh, no, oh, woe is me, you know? Oh.
How has God stricken me with this with this wench wandering into my fantastic shoe store? Oh.
Serious. It's like, oh. And so he doesn't even say, yeah, I think he just said like, yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like, hi, this boot's broke and I was wondering if you could get them fixed. And he just, I barely finished my sentence. He was like, no, I can't do that.
You. Not
Like,
for you, not your shoes.
Like, I'm barely exaggerating. He really was just like, no,
Yeah.
no, I can't,
No.
I can't do that. It won't fit. I won't fit. I can't do it. No sorry or anything. He was like trying to get me out of there so fucking fast. I'm pretty sure that he just like didn't want to work with someone like me, you know?
Yeah. Oh, look at this. He's at the back looking at the security cameras like, look at this ruffian that's just wandered into my store. I bet she's going to just spit on the floor and then tag up the place with her gang signs. I must remove her at once. I must remove her and get back to work on Lady Bethany's glass slippers. Oh,
She must be ready for the ball.
for the ball.
Yeah. So I don't trust that person. And I know that he was shitting also. I know that he's bullshitting. He said it like couldn't be fixed. But I've asked people who had the exact same boots, the exact same. And they said that it was easy to fix. And it's like,
Yeah.
fuck off, you know?
They obviously just didn't want your business. They're like, nah, you don't look the type to be in this store.
No goths allowed. Fuck you, die.
No ghosts.
You don't look like you have enough walking around money to buy a house on the spot.
Yeah.
The only cobbler in my town apparently only accepts payment in cash or silver. Okay. Yeah, is he looking to kill a werewolf? What the fuck? I can't imagine he's not a massive racist with that policy, but also, I kind of want to go just to see how paying in silver works. I mean, I assume you just weigh it, right?
Zoe?
Hello? I'm
Hello?
here. Hello? Oh god.
You're here. You are here now. Hello.
Okay, oh my god, I was so fucking scared, dude.
It was pure silence on my end for a solid
Oh my
30
God.
seconds. Yeah, I was
Oh,
like,
you scared me so
Zoe?
bad. I thought my computer was
I'm
dying
sorry.
again.
No, I'm sorry.
Oh,
It's
okay.
just Discord dying.
Okay, it's just fucking Discord again. Got me howling at the moon, dude. Seriously. Oh my god. I hope. Okay, Chad, are you still there? Is everything still okay?
I
Please.
assume chat's still there. I have no. Like I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, Chad's still here. Okay. God, I'm
It's
so
okay, I'm
fucking
sorry for
paranoid
panicking
now.
you. I'm
It's
sorry.
okay. It's okay. Next class.
It's okay, sorry, it's okay. The bougie cobbler's gone now.
Yeah, but I do have to still get my boots fixed.
That's true. You have to guess you have to wait to go to the non-bougie cobbler.
Or go there very early, but I am not in the fucking headspace for that shit, dude.
Gotta go to the working man's cobbler.
It does seem like refusing a goth girl, notoriously a subculture interested in clothing repair, is a bad business model. It is. But also, I feel like that dude isn't gonna know about that. He's just gonna be like, oh, a counterculture. Kill it, you know?
A poor person.
A poor person, yeah.
Imagine if you'd said, "Hey, can I get these boots fixed?" And he was just like, "You can't afford it,
I mean,
bitch."
and then he moonwalked out.
Walked out. You just see him poke his head around the door frame, like, is she gone?
She
No,
got
she's
hit.
still there.
I'm scared.
I moonwalked out. That's her cue to leave. Why is she still here? No, why is she heading towards me? Shit.
And I am normal. I'm Earth walking towards him.
Walking
This
towards.
is what I'm calling walking from now on. Speaking
walking
about
like
clothing
the
repair, though.
normal- I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Let's just about to say Earth walking like the normal working class person you are.
Unlike the fucking 1%ers who all do the moonwalk all the time.
Fucked up.
But speaking about clothing repair, I have 2 skirts that both are in need of repair. Should get on that. You know, I like some skirts have like an inner skirt that's like of a thinner material and stuff, but it's like smoother, so that stuff is coming off bad. I really need to get that fixed.
Have you ever considered owning a sewing machine?
Well, if I did, I'd know who to get it to identify it.
I can offer you some great suggestions.
My mom has one.
Please. Please, this skill doesn't come in useful at all.
It would be kind of fun if I know how to sew, actually. Not a priority, though.
No.
Strongest Earthwalker versus average Moonwalker. Anyway, get connected. There seems to be a cable trouble in the valley. Can I get an escort just in case? Hold on a second. Wait. I'm retiring real quick because I have to look at the difficulty for a small friend. 2 whole stars. Oh, no wonder we had so much trouble with that boss.
This one's hard.
Unlike this one, which has 1 star.
Yes.
We don't take anyone with us on this one by default.
No, you're alone.
No.
You're alone.
No.
You're so alone.
No.
Okay, never mind. You're not alone.
I'm taking everyone with us.
Do you want me to voice this guy?
Huh? What?
Do you want me to voice this guy?
Sure. No, I think I don't remember who did
Were
this
you
one
voicing
originally.
him?
I think I voiced him as a radio or as a game show host because he looks like a game show host to me.
That's true. Okay, you can voice him.
Oh, you're the one who accepted the job, are you? Great! I was hoping to get a capable hunter on this one. Communication cable problems crop up pretty regularly from wear and tear or natural occurrences. This time, though, it's on a bigger scale. Aroma City, on the other hand, is sending out an investigation team. We're also sending out a bigger crew of cable workers than usual. It's our job to supply escorts. To be honest, the skill of destruction on this cable rules out simple wear and tear. If I had to say, there's an 80% chance that the damage was caused by hostiles. Since you've put down a dragon before, I feel pretty confident about you taking on the job. Other hunters and cable workers are on their way to Gerhasia Valley. Hurry up and join them.
Okay.
Hey, you! The fucking internet is down. Go sort it out.
Do something about it. Go kill the internet service provider.
My Discord connection is shit. Go investigate the cable.
Go investigate, wink, the Discord executives.
Wink.
Wink.
Wink. Wink. Wink. Wink. Wink. Wink.
Yeah,
So
I
why are you
got
winking? Is
it.
there
You can
something in your eye? Wink. Wink. Wink.
Wink, wink, wink.
That thing you're hovering over, I thought that said Diaphene. I was like, wait, what?
Diaphene is in the game. I'm so happy for them. They made it.
They star as the gender fluid.
Do. Wait, no, I should probably upgrade my weapon a little bit. I don't want to use a die grinder on that because that's like a much better upgrade item. And I assume we're still gonna find a better thing for this item at some point.
I'd hope so.
I'm also realizing that I think we should put some, we got like materials and stuff we can put into the storage.
Into the chest.
Research shops. Someone apparently trades rare items for them. Alright, it is, yes. I'll keep that. These things. There we
This is
go.
my favorite character. Her name is Trunk.
Oh, from Dragon Ball? Cool.
Her name is Store Items.
Would Store be a bad name? I feel like Store could work as a name, honestly.
No, I've never considered before. Think about it. Yeah, if someone told me their name was Store, I probably wouldn't blink an eye.
Yeah. Honestly, given that I'm hearing it in the context of this is someone's name, I might not even immediately register it as the word store.
Yeah.
What am I here?
Being surrounded by queer people means you don't generally blink an eye anymore when people tell you their name and it's slightly unusual.
Yeah, exactly. And that's awesome. It's a similar thing with
There's
like
a
voices, you know?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I read a post the other day, which is absolutely true, about how, like, if you were just surrounded by queer people, you stop being able to gender voices correctly.
Yeah.
Like, well, it's quote unquote correctly, like, you just don't think about it anymore.
Yeah, you don't have, you lose that prejudice. Well,
Yeah.
prejudice is a strong word, I guess. Bias.
Yeah.
Which is super nice.
It is super nice. I think more people should constantly be surrounded by trans people.
Me too. Oh, hey, look, it's this lady. You want to voice this lady?
Yeah, sure. Oh, hey! You must be the hunter escort they sent me. I had all the other cable workers and escorts move ahead to inspect and repair the cables.
Right, yeah, she's a cable worker, I remember now.
I just stood here on my own. That's super safe, right? I'm following them around to confirm the work's up to spec and check backups, that sort of thing. It's a pretty time-consuming job. All the hostiles the other hunters missed, and maybe some new ones too. I expect them to come running. It's gonna be tough for you, I'm sure.
Wring hands like, oh no! What do you mean wringing your hands worriedly? It's a lot,
like,
isn't it?
yeah, like someone like rubbing their hands like, oh no, I'm super worried.
I guess?
I think it should say crack knuckles confidently.
I agree.
Sorry, though.
I think it should say crack skulls confidently.
Whose skull? There's no one here.
No, because not anymore. They just died. I killed them.
Oh, I see.
Wring hands confidently. Well, that just makes you look evil. That just makes you look like you're like an evil advisor, you know? But it would be funny. But no, Jill would not confidently.
Hey, you're pretty brave. I put my trust in your conscience.
And you fucked up and the show path. Imagine if this game was actually like an escort mission. If this NPC would actually just appear and just, oh no, I'm being killed. Oh, you know.
Save me.
Hey, listen.
Why don't you stop? Hey, listen.
I'm fucking dying.
I don't know what it is about, like, there's something very strange to me about this lady's, like, torso. Like, the way it appears like she's wearing a bra, but, like, the proportions don't seem to be quite there.
Yeah, the
It's like a very strange
perspective isn't
design.
quite right.
Yeah.
I really feel like whoever did the spread work for this game just doesn't know how to draw boobs.
No, like it's, there's cleavage there, and, like, she's wearing a bra, but it seems to also be completely flat at the same time. It's a very strange look.
It doesn't. Yeah, it's very weird.
Yeah. Why don't you start with clearing the path of hostiles? You can leave the rest up to me. Leave it to me.
Leave it to me.
Aroma City sent cable workers from their side too. Once we figure the cause, we can fix the cable and we're done. Alright then, shall we?
I do realize that you are like the only voice for this entire mission. If you voice both of these characters. Oh, you don't
It's
voice
fine.
the game show announcer. That's me. But that one's only at the start and end. Well, maybe not even the end. Who's to say?
Who's to say? Who's really to say?
No one. It's a fun mystery for everyone to
Fun
enjoy
mystery
together.
for us to solve. And
Yes.
we solve it by waiting for the passage of time.
That's also how I solve mysteries in movies. I'm really good at that.
Have you never watched a movie before? Keep watching and information will be revealed to you.
God, that is one of the most powerful fucking phrases in recent history, dude.
Really is. At least Discord seems to have fixed itself up now, touch wood.
Yeah, that's very good. I think this is a healing trap over here. Well, no one's gonna hurt it all yet. It wasn't. It was confusion. Ow.
Oh, at least Discord seems to fix it. Oh, never mind. It just told me to go fuck myself.
No, that's normal. That's an intended feature.
Oh, okay. What, the box that pops in the middle of the screen sings, fuck you, asshole? That's
Yeah.
what's intended?
Uh-huh.
Oh, okay. Oh. I feel kind of put out, to be honest.
Yeah, it's I heard that that feature was implemented as part of like an initiative, by the execs to, you know, really make it clear where they stand, in regards to their consumer base. You know.
I guess I can appreciate the honesty, so I guess this is
Yeah.
really one of the best corporations I've ever dealt with.
Exactly.
Wow, they're
Ow,
rude to me.
fucking
So
Kai, what the hell?
relatable.
Wait, that wasn't Kai. Ogie, what the hell?
Fucked up.
Sorry,
They're rude to
Kai.
me, so relatable. I'm oh so rude to me.
Don't be rude to yourself, bud. Come on. Don't do it. I saw a post the other day. This is the section of the stream where we just say, "I saw a post. I will not tell you the post."
Yeah.
I saw a post that that said like, imagine if you, if they have like a yellow shadow like that, they're more powerful in Grandma XP. Anyway.
Oh, nice.
Imagine if you were to be cloned. Like there would be a clone standing in front of you.
Yeah.
This is an exact clone. All your memories, thoughts, etc. It's not like a lab-grown clone or anything. It's a clone who is literally just another version of you who has done all the things you did. Would you still be mean to her? Would you still like say the kind of things you say to yourself that are, you know, not so nice to yourself? Because that's
Yes.
You would?
Yeah, definitely.
Would you
yeah.
really?
Yeah, if they're exact clone, yeah, definitely.
But it's another person now.
Okay, but they're me. They understand.
This is fucked up.
Yeah, they have it coming. Look, this bitch standing in front of me. She's done some awful things. She deserves to be told off.
I don't think so, Jody. I've known you for a while now. I don't think you need to be told off on shit.
Okay, fine. You're probably right.
Yes, I am. No, say your
Okay,
little
never
lines.
mind. Now I want to disagree because you...
No, what the fuck?
Okay.
God damn it.
The cable checks out fine so far. The advanced crew is doing a good job. Good for them. I would have hurt them if they weren't.
They get up
But the
lucky this
connection
time.
hasn't. They get off lucky this time. Finally, a crew I don't have to kill. But the connection hasn't been restored yet, so the break must be further ahead. Sorry, farther ahead. I'm glad you joined us, though.
Farther ahead.
We're seeing more hostiles
Papa,
than I
over
thought
there.
we would. Papa,
Farther ahead.
Papa, I've been an agreeable little cast. May I have a lollipop? It couldn't have been. It could have been dicey for us if we tried to do this one on our own. Actually, that's what we're about to do. Try to fix things out getting in your guys' hair.
You don't like hunters? Whoa, Dusty,
don't
what the
like
fuck is
them?
with your eyes? What's with my eyes? Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Do not go
Dusty's
wide-eyed when I'm
Texas sheet is
sad.
broken. Oh, is that what happened? You went,
Yeah.
oh. When you're sad, Dusty puts on a blindfold so he doesn't have to see you be sad.
That's it, that's it. That's what real friends do. One time she said something slightly embarrassing in middle school, and so she deserves it, obviously. You guys are... No, you have to be nice to yourself.
I did make a...
Positive information.
This isn't me talking about a post I saw because I made a post the other day about this one. So I'm gonna have to find it because I can't remember the exact wording.
Okay, I'll keep going in the meantime.
Yeah,
Wait,
keep
no,
going.
you have to. I'll just take over for a little bit. Oh, you
no,
don't like
I can
hunters?
scroll while reading.
Okay.
Oh, that's not it at all. Your hunters make it like a lot easier for us to do our jobs. In fact, we always appreciate the work you do. We cable workers are responsible for laying cables between cities. We make communication happen. I like to see us building bonds between people. When
Well, I
your
like to
hunters do
just
your job,
stupid.
that's so mean. Why would you say that?
I don't know.
When your hunters do your job, you make it possible for people to go to other cities. When we cable workers do our jobs, people in different cities can talk to each other. To meet and talk, communication is the foundation between keeping peace between people. That's why I
true.
take my job so seriously. I'm working for more people than I'm ever going to meet in my lifetime.
Oh,
I'm keeping the peace.
better than any cop could.
Hell yeah. I bet you think I sound kind of self-important.
Yes, die. You're incredibly selfish. Die.
True. I am 12. But I couldn't do a job like this if I didn't totally believe in the work, you know? Sorry, I let myself get carried away sometimes. There's still a long way to go. Let's keep moving, okay?
This is a much better story than the Mac one. Being nice to myself would only reinforce the bad decisions making and general laziness. That whoa, fuck! I forgot about the cats. That got me into the situation. No. When I'm saying you should be nice to yourself, I don't mean you should excuse everything you've done. I'm saying you should, like, be more constructive than just beat yourself up over it. You know?
I found the post. I found the post I made.
Okay.
It says, it really sucks how everyone I love and care about definitely remembers all the embarrassing shit I've ever done and is silently holding on to it until one day I do one too many embarrassing things, at which point they all turn against me instantly and simultaneously.
Like in a fucking nightmare.
Yeah,
No.
you should be close. It's gonna happen. Just you wait.
Okay, I guess I'll be there.
No. We should be close to the rendezvous point. Rendezvous. It's really weird that that word says rendezvous. To the rendezvous point with the Aurora
A little.
City's cable workers.
It's a little French word, you know?
Ugh, French. The cable isn't restored yet, so whatever caused the disconnect has got to be just ahead.
I bet it's a dragon.
I think we've reached a safe spot here. Oh, of course it's a dragon. They keep recycling the same three bosses over and over again.
Yeah, every
What?
area has one boss. Except for the first
Cable
area, which has 8 monkeys.
True. Cable's shuddering. What's going on over there?
Dragon.
There's no point wondering about it. We need
It's a
to get
dragon.
that cable reconnected right away. I mean, there's no point worrying about it. The cable is shuddering. We should investigate. That's your job.
Yeah. Like,
Oh, the
can't you
cable's
fix it
shaking
later?
and shuddering. Can you hang with me a bit longer? Either that or I'll just have to go at it on my own.
I'm
I'm
scared. I thought the other option was like, no, I'm gonna run ahead and figure out what's causing it. But no, it's I'm scared. No, of
I'm
course
so
we'll hang
scared
here.
forever, Zoe. I don't think we can do this. Thanks.
No,
well,
we
let's
can
get
do
to
it.
then. What do you think happens if you say I'm scared?
She's like, please. And then
And
you're
you're
like,
like,
okay.
Anything for you.
Anything for your random lady whose name I forgot? Was it Natsume?
Yeah, it's something like that, yeah.
Oh, cool. I might have remembered. Woo! The most important thing in games with scene transitions is to do something fun when entering the scene transition.
So true. Hit 'em fast and hard, Zoe.
Oh well. I missed the third hit of my combo. I'm doing great. Kai, are you good?
I don't think Kai's good.
Kai's not good.
Sort of stuck. Yeah. Not said a word this stream, by the way. Neither has Obi.
No. Kai has. Oh yeah, no. Sarissa also hasn't said anything.
No, Sarissa says some stuff this stream.
Oh, this stream. Yeah, it's this stream. Sorry, I thought you meant this mission. Ooh, a blue. Wow, a white robe. I don't need that because I can't do magic.
Not yet. No, because robots can't do magic because they don't have souls. I remember.
Piku can do magic.
Who?
Piku. Pikucelu. Pikucelu's like a robo witch. I don't know, that's still part of her lore actually. You should ask.
I don't know who this is.
Blue robot from Roller.
Yeah, Piku. Yes, okay, yeah. I did.
Thank you for the shout out, very good.
I didn't register. I thought you were talking about character in this game, so I didn't register.
Ow. Yeah, no, I figured. And I thought it might be fun to not immediately clarify. And it was alright. It was kind of funny.
It's like, which have we met a robot with? Am I forgetting my Phantasy lore, which I know so much about?
So much. You're more knowledgeable about this game than I am.
Am I? I mean, yes, it's true, I am.
Yeah, spoil the ending for us right now.
You get to the big pillar, and it takes you to the moon, and you find the mother, and you're like, hey, you need to cut that out right now. And the mother's like, I am an ancient AI that has been sent to set to kill humans because God willed it. And they're like, damn, we better shut this thing down. So you pull out all its RAM, and then it's like, shit, you've defeated me. And then you come back down to Earth in one of the drop pods, and everyone in this thing is like, you did it. You're really the best, Jewel. And then Sarissa kisses you, and then the credits roll.
Wow, I can't wait to ow. I can't wait to see that ending for real.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, that's definitely what it's gonna be.
I'm sure you remember it from your previous playthroughs.
I do, yes. Because it really is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Na, 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 na. Hey, am I late? Nope. Well,
Depends what you consider late.
yeah, it depends on what you consider late.
Yeah. I mean,
The
you're not
stream's
too
been
late to
going for a
witness-
while.
Yeah. Not too late to witness some stream, but you are too late to witness the start of the stream.
That's true. Thing. No. Oh, that did no damage. Good. Wow, that was a miss. Good.
If you are here to witness the offline stream, then you are too early.
Shit. I got attacked a bunch there, and none of it did any damage to me. Hold on.
You turned on God mode, how could you?
Am I overpowered?
So, you might be a little overpowered. So.
What's going on? You, attack me. Do it. Do it, little motherfucker. No, gang. No, please, no, no! Well, I think we're
That's
overpowered.
sad.
Which is odd because, like, we just got this quest at this point of the story, so wouldn't you think that it would be balanced to our current levels and
Sorry.
stuff?
So you're just so powerful all the time. That's the explanation.
Of course, I forgot about that. Thank you. Or
Yo,
maybe
it's the most Wednesdayest day of the year.
Is it?
Yeah. You know, with the kids jingle belling and everyone telling to be of good cheer.
What are you talking about?
It's the most Wednesdayest day of the year.
Uh-huh.
It's the last Wednesday before Christmas.
Okay. So was yesterday the Tuesday-ish day?
Day of... Yeah, but I didn't fit the song quite so well.
That's true. It's the most Wednesdayest day of the year. God, it sucks.
You. Fuck you.
Sorry, no. It sucks in a good way. I think it's funny.
It's not like I came over and I stole it from a Tumblr post.
Oh, well, then I don't care. Only me and my friends are funny on Tumblr. That's a joke, of course. I'm sure some people
Actually, I stole it from a Tumblr post, which is a screenshot of a comic panel, and it appears like Gwenpool is saying it, or at least one of the Gwens.
Wait, whoa. It did seem kind of familiar. Wait, send it to me. Put it in streaming text.
Yeah, sure. There you go.
Yeah, that is her. Yeah, no wonder it sounds familiar. It's Gwenpool.
Yeah, I don't think it's shit anymore.
Yay! Shut up. Anyway, Little Mitch Academia Report 01. Rare they are, but observed for white-shadowed beasts. Stronger as they seem to be too. Thanks, Yoda. Hello,
Did you
Gwenpool.
write that?
Only my friends and Gwenpool are funny on Tumblr.
Am I funny on Tumblr?
You're my friend, aren't you?
So true.
Egg.
Egg. Robotoast. Thank you very much for your egg.
Why do you keep writing Hague test?
I think it's
That's
because they hear Hake when the egg sound voice line plays. Space Junk, hello. Thank you for your egg as well.
Getting eggs is now a war crime.
True.
Redeems an egg. Hague. Go there now.
To the Hague? Go to the Hague.
Go to the Hague.
We're here.
Get in the fucking energized protodermis.
Can't wait to fight a dragon. I'm so
A
surprised.
dragon? That's what was ripping up the cable.
No. My pizza too, girl.
Wait, is that the Jody from Tumblr? I don't think I'm most well known from being from Tumblr, to be honest.
Maybe not.
I have less than 200 followers on Tumblr.
No, we don't talk about our Tumblr follower count.
Oh, sorry. I have less Tumblr followers than I do Twitter followers. I don't use Twitter anymore, so...
You have to read also.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Oh, no. If it
You have
snaps
to.
the cables... Yeah, I'm reading. Shut up.
Ow. Ow!
Oh, no. If it snaps the cable's feet, I won't be able to repair it with the gear I brought. Trillions will die.
Billions will die.
Hey, you. Hey, you dragon. Over here.
So
Come
nice.
this way.
Trillions? More or less than billions? It's probably more.
Trillions
isn't
is
it?
more than billions.
Yeah, it'd be more. Right.
It's more. It's a lot more. Whoa, it's really coming this way. Yeah, of course it is. You called it. You asked it to.
Back off!
No, step forward. Okay.
No, I was like,
Sorry,
you get it
but
out of the way.
but
I'll
the
do
cable.
it. You just stepping forward would have been better. Oh well.
Yeah, I thought she rushed head first into danger.
You're right. I was more so like she's rushing head first into making sure someone else is not in danger, and she is. But
Maybe.
yeah, you're right.
I'm sure I
Anyway.
can fix the cable once that dragon's out of the way. Please do something.
I got such a funny
Do
little
something.
face.
You do have such a funny little face.
Ah.
Why did you give Queen the Fennec such a funny little face?
It's funny. It's cute. Let's kill this app. But
On
I
a
love
scale
Gwen.
from 1 to... You
Go
love
on.
Gwen?
Love Gwen. Go on.
I was just about to ask, on a scale from 1 to 10, how much joy does Queen the Fennec have in her heart?
6.
Oh. It's more than half.
Uh-huh.
What about the rest of the queens? What do they rate on the joy in
Oh
the
my god, we're
heart
already
scale?
phase 2.
Oh,
Sorry.
that's quick.
Yeah,
You're very overpowered.
I'm okay with that. Crown the Queen is 8.5. Coral Queen is a 9. Spectral is a 4. And Ruckus Queen doesn't understand the question.
It's just not fair enough. Can you formulate the question in the in a puzzle?
You have to give her like a Professor Layton style puzzle.
Can you spell it out using these push blocks? How about Yippee Queen?
Off the fucking charts.
I was waiting to see which was the
Wow, that was
funniest answer. Really, really high or 0.
0 would have been really good too. Just none.
You hunters are unbelievable. I can't believe you took out that dragon. And then there's me.
Just the idea that the Yippee Queen goes Yippee, and it's so fun and whimsical. Just when she's by herself, it's just.
She gets into a room. She like takes off her crown. And she's like, oh, another long day at the Yippee factory. Oh, I can't wait to go to bed.
Another long day of brightening everyone's lives and being fakely threatening.
But when will someone brighten my life?
Aww.
It's just a tragic character, really, Yippee Queen.
So true. Also, to zoom just a moment, I got sad is funny. Yippee!
Yippee!
When will
Yippee
Yippee
with such a blank face? When will she yippee with a smile?
Ow! Good question.
Hello, Fire Gonzola, how you doing?
Hello.
It's no good after all. The cable's chewed up for me to repair. And with the equipment I've got.
Oh.
After all you went through, I'm so sorry.
Fire Golza, thank you very much for your egg. Fennec Queen almost escaped the stream. There's no escape.
In order to repair the connection, I will lay my body across the cable and hold on to either end. I'll sacrifice myself so that others may communicate. Hey, is that the advance
Already
party?
sacrificed.
Why are they coming from Aurora City direction? Oh, wow! Those supplies and all that gear. Sorry, can you wait here a second? After some people I got to go rob.
It does sound like she robbed them.
Oh, booyah!
Alright, we gotta run. We gotta get out of here.
Let's go for millions on the black market. Yes, I can do it. We can fix this cable. All right.
Alright.
All right.
Upside down cable. Deep cut.
The advanced crew met with Aurora. I do not know what this is. That an N or an M?
It's an M. You can tell because it's
an M.
I guess it'd be very hard for you.
Aromas.
Yeah, but it's like the thicker side is meant to be like 2 lines.
Oh, I see. Roma City's cave workers brought back the supplies we needed for repairs. They knew the dragon was too much for them, so they went ahead and got ready for the repairs afterwards. I'm sorry, I got a little overexcited there. Especially with the booyah and the thievery. There's just something really great about a little teamwork going a long way, you know?
Well, about a little stealing.
What?
A little stealing.
Oh, yes. The repairs won't be a problem now. You can leave everything to us. Leave it to me.
Leave it to me!
Hey, would you mind filling the report in the city?
I would.
There's just a few bits of paperwork to do. I've got a cable to fix. What a heartwarming tale about a girl and her cable.
It's kind of cute. I think it's kind of a cute
really
story.
passionate about cable repairs.
Hey, everybody needs a hobby. She's just very artistic about it, you know? Also...
Well, she's lucky.
go on.
I was gonna say she's lucky she doesn't have to deal with those sharks gnawing on internet cables in the ocean.
Those sharks deserve a little snacky. It's okay.
You don't have to worry about Coral Queen gnawing on the internet cables in the ocean.
You know she does. There's a little bit of lighting here. Like, our textures are a little yellowish because of the sunset.
You're in
It's
Mexico.
nice.
Oh, okay. No, mind.
No, you're right. We're in Mexico.
You're in Mexico.
I also...
Come on, gang, it's time to break bad.
I can't fucking wait to watch the Breaking Bad VR thing again. It's so funny. Alright, don't cry. They are just some fish. Na 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 na. They are just some fish. I also, it's a bit of a shame that we only got to do 2 side quests. Maybe we hadn't talked so much about so many things in the middle of conversations. But we are going to end the stream here also after this cutscene here and after we've saved the game and stuff. Because we've been going for 3.5 hours. And that's the end of my reasoning.
Fair. I don't think it matters how much game we got through. I think what matters is that we were very entertaining. At least I think we were.
And we were.
Hell
Wait,
yeah.
hold on. Do I have anything tomorrow?
If you disagree, leave.
You die.
You die.
You die. If you disagree, you die. You fools. You absolute silly goofs. Oh, how terrible that we had so much fun. Oh no.
We really did.
So sad and terrible.
Oh no, I guess we will perish for our crimes against the story of Phantasy Star Zero.
That we will, yes. It's sad, but it has to be done. Someone has to pay.
It has to be done.
Also, something that is like barely noticeable, but I know it. I think it's nice. Is that something that Fennec Queen has that none of my other models do is my jaw actually like moves with how I talk.
Yes,
So-
I noticed that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard to notice, but
So
it is
it's
there.
very cool.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I think it's a nice little feature.
It's like she's really got a mouth and not just a texture.
Yeah, exactly. But then it was so small, relatively
She's so
speaking.
small.
So then it's kind of hard to see, you know?
Quickly enlarge on the model so that everyone can zoom in on your jaw.
Fine. Behold, look at my jaw move. It's still kind of hard to see. No, okay, you can see it a little bit better now. It's still just
Oh
very
my god,
subtle.
she's so big!
Wow.
She's huge! No!
Rah, 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 rah.
No!
I'm normal.
She's like, find me revenge! Call me short now!
And then I hit my head on the ceiling and I cry about it.
Oh.
Anyway. Alright, so it looks like we're being raided!
That's fucked up.
That's fucked up. Anyway, Bungolin and your viewers, hello, hello. Welcome to the stream. Hi, hi, my name is... Well, I am currently Queen of Fennec, and my... I don't think it was normal size. I think it was pretty big for a moment there. But I am Queen of Fennec currently, but I'm always Zoe, and I am an artist and a variety streamer. Hello. We are kind of rounding off the stream. Is that proper? So is that a sentence?
Yeah.
Rounding off the stream? Yeah. We're about to round off the stream after this cutscene and stuff. So you did get here near the end. Sorry, but thanks for coming regardless. I hope you had a good time during your stream, whatever it was that you did.
Yeah.
And yeah, stick around if you want. Yeah, we can do a raid train. Yeah. All right.
Choo choo.
Choo choo.
Alright, so it looks like the cable repair went smoothly with help of Aroma City's crew. Great! Thanks for your report. Actually, before you got here, we already got word that the cable had been repaired. It's mind-blowing how fast they pulled off that repair work. The cable workers all reported that you made it possible for them to focus on their job. We also got thanks from Aroma City's people who were being terrorized by that dragon. This job involved the cooperation, no corporations here, thank God. Oh, I skipped the dialogue. It was a huge job, bigger than anything we've ever faced in the past. We owe you thanks for that. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, the good work, Zoe.
Thank you for the good work, Jody.
You're doing great. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Are you proud of yourself?
No.
Fuck.
World is a fuck.
What is a fuck? I had a good stream. RE4 remake is a fun time. Nice. I hear very good things about it. I haven't even played the original. You guys ever have? Oh god. You guys ever have like a little tingling in your ear and it's just like ugh, makes you go ugh.
Yeah.
It's annoying.
Yeah, no. It is.
Can we stop that shit? Can we as a
Can we get rid of
species
that?
stop that shit? Cut
I
that
have
shit
great news.
out.
There is a solution, Zoe.
What is it?
All you have to do is replace your flesh with metal.
Don't think I haven't considered it. You know I have.
I
You know I
you
will
have.
continue to do so.
Consider.
Consider,
Much
consider.
to consider.
Much to consider until our little buddy evolved. No, not like Tinnitus. That's not.
Yoy.
That's not what it is. But our little buddy's
Some
got little
sort of-
wingsies.
Yeah.
Wow. And also got a new
I'm so
name.
proud of my little
Awful.
buddy.
I'm so proud of
Awful
our little
buddy.
buddy also. Chest style. Thank you very much for following.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on, if we go... Yeah, I think we're gonna have to go into the character select menu to get a good look at it. Just wanna say your Vita model looks really cool. Thank you! I made me myself. This is one of many that I have.
You made you yourself. There are many me's.
There are many me's. I was stuck in a time loop for a while and... Well...
No, not again. Not again! For the last time, we're not in a time loop. You can just use Blender.
Is that not the same thing if you really think about it?
No. The answer is no. You're incorrect.
Bum, bum, ba-dum. Enter the queen first. I mean, that joke has been made before and it is not inaccurate. Although, I don't think that that's what I was... I don't know what I was inspired... I think I wasn't really inspired by anything to make, like, my VTuber lore and stuff, that there's just multiple versions of the same person. I think it's just that I wanted to have more aesthetics, more different kinds of characters.
Yeah, stuff to switch between.
Yeah, I had a cyborg, and I was like, yeah, but I also like, I want a ghost, and I want a shark, and now I do. Come on, that's the only one. I can't upgrade my armor. World is such big suckies.
I think it is good to have
I can do it
options.
with this one. Right. Wait, did I? No, I didn't turn in the quest yet.
No, you didn't. No. You have to turn on the quest or they'll be mad at you.
They'll destroy me. They'll be
They'll be
mad at
like,
me
"Why
and I'll
didn't you
shoot
turn
laser
the-"
eyes at me at the same time. What did I just get? This. Okay. I can't even use PP because I am not magic. But I did recently think of a game or a story or something that was a very apt comparison to the Gauntlet Queen stuff. But I don't remember what it was. Maybe it was Spider-Verse. Who's to say? Anyway, this has been it. So next time we'll do 2 more side quests. We're still not gonna go to the Orb on a Stick. I'm so sorry. But the side quests have a little story bits also, so I think they're still fun, right? Right? Jody? 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 Hello? I'm in hell. No! Can you still hear me? Fuck. When are they gonna go to the Orb Factory? Seriously? I can't. Shit. Well, it's the end of the stream anyway. Give yourself a shout out in chat, Jody. Everybody should go check you out, of course, especially because this.
Oh,
Ow.
hello?
Oh, hi.
Hello?
You're back. Hi. Okay, you can
Yeah,
do your
yeah,
own
yeah.
little shout out.
Oh yay, yippee! Hello. Hi everyone. My name's Jody. How you doing? You can find me on twitch.tv/Timeloop. This Saturday, tune in for new model debut. It's very important that you do this, or I'll cry about it.
Yeah.
However, tomorrow we're playing Half-Life Intensity Field, which is a very cool Half-Life mod, and it'll be the last stream that you'll see this model. So maybe come check that out too, because you won't have another chance. It will be gone. She will die after the next stream. So
Yeah, we're gonna take her right back and
better
shoot her.
version. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, check me out there.
You should.
I'm cool.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, my turn. So, so this has been very fun. My next stream is in 2 days. I will be. No, it's not. It's in 3 days. It is actually the same day that you're streaming, but after you're streaming.
Yes.
But in 2 days' time, we are actually watching the Animal Crossing anime movie in the Discord. And wouldn't you know it, Discord is also the best place to stay up to date with what I'm gonna do. So, if you could do exclamation point links in chat, you get a link to my little website, it has all my links on it. Various links, you can figure it all out. But Discord is the best place to stay up to date with what I do. Because you get a little adhere when I go live or post a schedule. You don't have to worry about joining a whole community, which can be a lot for some people, so that's totally valid. Because all you get if you...
Well,
I'm doing my fucking.
She died.
I'm doing my outro. Anyway,
It's
all
true,
you
the
get
intro
is
died.
the stream announcements channel, and a channel explaining how to get into the full server if you want to. But it's completely valid if all you want is the stream announcements. So yes, Animal Crossing movie. That's very fun. That's a yearly tradition. We do it in December. This is only the second time we're doing it, but it's a tradition. I've decided. And then the day after, we are going to play Lunistis, which is a very nice retro. Indie 3D platformer, and I love retro indie 3D platformers. Yay. So we're gonna play that. Yay. Okay, cool. And of course, next week or the week after or something, we'll be continuing Phantasy Star Zero as well, naturally.
naturally.
Now,
It's
I
gonna
hope
be so much fun forever.
indeed, yes, voices will be done.
Yes. It's gonna be so much fun
tangents.
forever because forever is how long it's gonna take us to finish this game if we keep going on tangents like we are.
Yeah, exactly. I see Duper is still going. Duper has been working on some stuff. I don't know if Duper's gonna keep going for much longer. Computer being slow.
Duper's got a lot of work to do because Duper lost everything and everyone.
Yeah.
They're all gone. They're all dead.
Fucking sucks. Oh god, I'm gonna sneeze. Exclamation point plus sneeze. Very good. Yes, there you go. Yeah, I think we're gonna rate Duper because I don't get to rate Duper a lot because our time's usually down the line. Duper is extremely nice, extremely talented, and extremely funny llama VTuber. Who is a game dev. He's a parent. He does it all. He's just super friendly, and we're gonna go over there and have a great time. And the raid message will be no orb on a stick today.
No orb on a stick. Orb on stick stuck in time loop. So sorry.
The stuck in time loop. So sorry is actually also funny, but let's do this one for now. All right.
Yeah,
so
no,
I hope y'all have had a very good time, and I hope you have a very wonderful rest of your day. And I'll see y'all next time. Bye, everyone.
See you soon, everyone.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye bye.